And welcome to our TNT set high above the start-finish line here at Michigan International Speedway. Mark Fine alongside Kyle Petty and Larry McReynolds. The blood just gets flowing a little quicker this time of day, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, especially when you got weather like this. This is about as good as it gets, Kyle.
This is as good as it gets. Friday was good. Saturday didn't look too good. Today, it's racing weather in Michigan.
All right, guys, getting back to the top story. 43 cars going to run 400 miles today, but it's these restarts that we're going to be talking about again. The double file restarts, shootout style. I want you to talk about what you thought last week, but more importantly, pushing it forward to what you think we're going to see today.
I liked what I saw last week. And talking to some of the drivers, I think they liked what they saw. This is going to be a little bit different. You get to that first corner a lot quicker than you get there at Pocono, so these guys are going to have to make a move. I liked some of the stuff we saw last week with the wave around. Some of those guys that put them back in the race. I'm not sure how it's going to play out here, but overall I thought it was good.
And when it dawned on me how exciting it is, I watched the Nationwide Series race from Kentucky last night. Remember, they don't have it.
Right.
And at the end of the race, when they had all of them lined up in single file, I said, there's no excitement to this. But what I think is going to be different here versus at Pocono is for those wave-by cars. At Pocono, once you took the green flag, you could easily come to pit road and make a four-tire green flag stop and stay on the lead lap. Yeah. Little different here. It's a little marginal. I think maybe you can hit pit road and change right-side tires, but if you change four tires, you're going to defeat what you just gained because you're going to lose that lap right back.
And bottom line here, guys, for both crew chiefs and driver, we're still in a learning process here, right? I mean, it's going to be a while before these guys really get up to speed, no pun intended, on getting it just down how they want it.
Yeah, but Larry brings up an incredible point. Two tires. You know, at Pocono, everybody was four-tiring because
easily.
You could.
Yeah.
Here, two tires, gas and go. How many laps have you been out there? You may see some guys just try to gas and go and get back out there just to try to conserve. But remember, Michigan's not known for a place that has a lot of caution, so that's a different story too. That
and
adds a
the
twist.
one thing that I heard all the drivers say what they liked about it, on every restart they were racing people around them.
Right.
You know, all the lead lap cars were together. All the cars a lap down were together. I think that's what the drivers like. A guy on the lead lap's not trying to fight a car a lap down. It's right beside him.
That was one of the points we heard right as soon as they said they were going to go with the rule. All right, with all the talk surrounding this revolutionary change for NASCAR, pit reporter Lindsey Czarniak got some insight this week from a completely different angle. As much as the drivers have had to adjust to the new rule, the sports officials have had to adapt as well. As Lindsey tells us, this adds yet another item to a pressure-filled to-do list for this distinguished group.
Mark, we've been given an opportunity to take you inside of a place nobody gets to see. It's NASCAR's race control, where the men and women that oversee this sport make it all happen on race day. Come on.
Give me a brief description of how you would describe the atmosphere in race control on race day.
Intense, but under control.
96 stays where he's at, 48's falling back. We got the 7, the 20, the 42.
What is it like for you when you're in this space during a race with Mike Helton watching on?
I want you to think of race control as a team effort, and you're able to bounce off the different things with Mike Helton, Robin Pemberton, and John Darby. It's all of us trying to move forward and do it absolutely perfect, because we're doing this for the competitors. We're the stewards of the sport, and that's our responsibility.
Pit road's clear. Coming to the green.
We're involved with these people week in and week out. Our paths cross so many times that these are your friends or these are your buddies or whatever. This is a traveling community at the same time.
I'm sure sometimes those friends feel like your kids maybe trying to get away with a little bit more than expected.
I think everybody tries to push the envelope, which is competition.
Hey, I sent a message to the official down there. If he wants to make this personal over the radio like that, we can leave on with it.
48 and the 39 need to let the wave around cars go by.
How much of a difference did it make in the one race we've seen so far with double file restarts, shootout style?
When we started with shootout style restarts, we took a lot of extra time in the garage area leading up to Sunday morning's drivers meeting to visit with the crew chiefs, get their input, visit with the drivers, get their input.
26, 88, 07, 82, 99.
Pick a lane, give me a lane.
Be a learning experience for all of us. All right, here's where the fun begins. See, like a game of Frogger right there.
There is so much technology involved in this sport, but how much more challenging has your job become because of the way NASCAR continues to grow?
15 years ago, all the scoring was manual. Now it's all totally automated. Technology is a big help. Being able to have the different views that that broadcasting brings to it. That helps. That helps to get it right, and that's all we're after. We want to get it right.
All right. Well, it really is a fascinating part of the sport that, again, thanks to Lindsay and the crew there for taking us behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Kyle, I know you have been up there.
Yes.
How crazy, they showed the calm side, I think. How
That is
crazy,
the calm
how
side.
crazy can it get up there?
Okay, think about it in this terms, and this is to a lesser degree. It's air traffic control. Okay, it's like an air traffic control. They don't do anything like that. But you got 43 planes in the pattern, all wanting to land, but all wanting to land the way they want to do it, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, and any way to get to the lead is the whole deal. These guys, it's their job, these men and women up there, to control what goes on pit road and what goes on the racetrack, and they do a tremendous job. There's a lot of pressure. We can't race without them. Let's be honest about that.
And my question to you, Larry Mack, how easy can it be, the communication between the crew chief and then I'm up there? During the course of a race, your communication with them and what you hear.
Well, that's what they've done that's really good. Kyle can remember the day when there was one official on pit road for maybe every 4, 5, 6 cars. You might go 50 laps and never see your official. Now every car has an official that's communication gap between the tower and the pit crew. But the thing that I don't envy about their job up there, Mark, nobody likes debris cautions. We want to see these cars race.
Right.
But while they're sitting there evaluating, is that piece of debris in turn one a paper cup or is it a piece of steel?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a car driving off into turn one at 200 miles an hour hits that, cuts a tire down, hits the wall. I don't envy there, and they're certainly going to err on the side of safety when it comes to that, and we applaud that.
Again, fascinating part of the sport that a lot of people aren't even aware of or don't think about on a regular basis. All right, time now for us to check in with the guys who will be calling the race today, along here with Kyle and Larry Mack. Bill Weber and Wally Dahl back up in the midst of preparations, I am sure. Gentlemen, what do you have for us today as we get ready for racing?
Well, Mark, thanks a lot. First of all, did your crew chief ever have to call up to NASCAR control when you were driving?
They usually call down. So we didn't have to call up. They usually called down and said, calm your driver down.
I don't know what you're up to this week, but every fan I talked to, it all started with the double file restarts and what it added to Pocono last week.
I think it's going to be so much fun to watch. We're coming up some very interesting racetracks, Sonoma. Daytona is going to be really exciting, and I think it was great. Everybody I've talked to said the same thing. Boy, why didn't they think about this a long time ago?
It's a beautiful day here in Michigan. Temperature should be about 75 degrees. No chance of rain. You had some real good runs here. Top 10 finish, and 8th, I believe, was your best. You like this place, but that puts you in the majority.
It really does. This is a racer's racetrack. There's so much room to race on this place. You can run high, low, in the middle. You can actually run 4 wide here coming off the corners and not worrying about losing it. And it's a smooth track. There's a lot of grip. And you're right. Everybody loves coming to this place. This was always one of those racetracks on my calendar I could not wait to get to.
Qualifying here was very interesting. You got to go to NASCAR.com and download the starting grid, and you'll see some of the favorites, not where you'd expect to see them. We'll go through all that and more. Countdown to green, a little less than an hour. Back down to Mark.
All right, thanks very much, Bill. And certainly as folks head to NASCAR.com, a little something else we want them to do for us. We want your input, questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. You can share them with us on Race Buddy at NASCAR.com. Race Buddy, of course, the enhanced race coverage and now interaction with us. You log on to NASCAR.com, click Ask the Booth, get involved, ask the questions. We'll see what you have a little later on in the show. Here's what lies ahead on NASCAR on TNT live from Michigan. Larry Mack has this week's Pride of NASCAR installment, sitting down with a man who's number 3 in all-time wins in the Sports Premier Series, and, of course, proudly donned that black hat for so many years. Darrell Waltrip. Later in the show, RCR Racing. Richard Childress and Clint Boyer. We're off to a great start, but tapered off as of late. And then, Countdown to Green, another week of the groundbreaking segment that's getting so much attention, the new and improved Wally's World. You don't want to miss it. Keep it here.
NASCAR on TNT Live. Brought to you by Sprint. NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you have a winning fuel strategy. Back on NASCAR on TNT, live from Michigan. Mark Martin, 4 career wins at this track. Maybe you can bring some of that success to his new team. Jeff Gordon hopes so, despite 2 wins, 20 top 10s to 24, no better than 18th in his last 3 races here in Michigan. He'll have to start from the back of the pack. Blew an engine in Friday's practice. All right, time now for us to head down here alongside the Torque. We'll tell you more about the Torque in a second. Best part of this segment, we get to take our jackets off, which is good. But right now we're going to get to our pit reporters. They got the latest as we get closer to green flag racing. We're going to start with Lindsay Zarniak. Lindsay?
Thanks so much, Mark. You know, the Roush Fenway racing routes here in Michigan certainly make things a little bit more comfortable for driver Matt Kenseth, but that's also because this sort of is his home. He grew up in Cambridge, Wisconsin, which is just across the lake, but he also has done so well at this track. Right now, he's got a string going of 3 consecutive top 5 finishes. This week, he drives the same car that he earned a victory in at Fontana. How about that, Matt Yoakum?
Lindsay Zarniak, when you look at Casey Kane's racing resume, what really stands out is past performances here at the Michigan International Speedway. 2nd last year on fuel mileage. A couple years ago, he went to victory lane. Today, he sits 8th on the grid, 14th in the championship standings. He needs a big bonus points type day. 60 markers out of 12. And when you look at how this car performed in qualifying, 8th, you look at how it performed in final practice, very strong. Casey's looking for a big day here in the Irish Hills. To Ralph Shaheen.
You know, 1 year ago, Joey Logano got his first career Nationwide Series victory at Kentucky Speedway. Last night, he became the first driver in the history of that racetrack as a repeat winner. That gives him a lot of confidence and momentum coming here to Michigan, a place he's never seen from behind the wheel of a Cup car. Marty Snyder, he's going to start 24th here today.
Well, Ralph, Mark mentioned it just a moment ago. Jeff Gordon has to start at the back of the pack today. So could we see, for the 2nd week in a row, the winner start at the back, make it all the way to the front, and win this race? Gordon certainly hopes so. Talked to Steve Letarte a moment ago, and he told me the car honestly is good enough to be able to get to the front and win the race today. And they have the advantage, despite a mediocre qualifying effort, of the 2nd stall here on pit road. That'll be a huge help to Jeff Gordon today, trying to become the 5th man to start at the back and win a race. Now to our NASCAR.com race buddy reporter, Jim Noble.
Well, Marty, what more can you say about Tony Stewart these days? Our winner in Pocono last week, our points leader as of now. Smoke is just getting started. This is a time of year where he historically starts to get his season rolling. Tony, by the way, also our featured driver on TNT Race Buddy on NASCAR.com. We've got Race Cam. We've got Pit Cam. We've got Battle Cam. You can choose your in-car audio, choose your favorite driver, camera angles. I'll be live on Pit Road online giving pit reports, and you could also talk trash with all your fans on Twitter, MySpace, and Facebook. It is TNT Race Buddy only on NASCAR.com. And Mark, we're glad you and everybody else is along for the ride.
Oh, we're glad you're along for the ride. Welcome to the team, Jim. And again, check him out at NASCAR.com. He does a great job, and Race Buddy's become such a huge part of what we do. This little baby right here, another huge part of what we do, the Torque TNT off-track robotic car. I like calling it RoboCar, but Torque's the name I think we're going to go with. We're going to get to you in a second with your keys and averages, but Kyle, I want to start with your keys to the race. We're going to take a look at NASCAR.com's race view as you tell us, as a driver, what you expect out here.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect, and that's the deal. You know, we've got the new double file shootout style restarts. That's going to be a little different. You've got the keys to the race for me are being there in the last 30 or 40 miles of the race, and that means no mistakes on the racetrack and no mistakes on pit road. You make a mistake on pit road here, you're going to pay a heavy penalty, whether it's with the new restarts or whatever it is. You'll see guys run up next to the wall, down on the bottom. There's plenty of places to find the groove to make your car run, and that may be the biggest key, is finding a place where you're comfortable on the racetrack.
By the way, that was Brian Vickers' qualifying lap that got him on the pole, so that's what you're taking a look, compliments of race view. All right, Larry Mack, we're going to get to your keys, but first, your trends. This is an important part of setting our fans up for the race today.
Well, it is. We don't have a lot of cautions normally in this 400-mile race, and I truly believe a lot of the crew chiefs, they will make calls in the race based on the trends of their averages. And what this comes from is basically the last 8 June races here at Michigan. The first caution, average lap 27, 5 times before lap 15. The longest green flag run, average of 75 laps. Only 1 out of 8 races has the longest green flag run of the race been less than 50 laps. The last caution flag, average lap 181, not including the rain-shortened 2006 race. 5 out of those 7 races, a caution in the last 10 laps, and cars finishing on the lead lap. Average 19 cars, and you know, I'm interested to see if possibly this wave-by procedure may increase that number. Now for our keys of the race, I'm going to deal with our Torque car here, and the biggest thing is like Kyle Petty said, Don't be afraid to move the groove around. And you know what? A guy that can really help that driver is the spotter. He can tell that driver where other cars are running. I like to see a car run the high line through 1 and 2. You can keep the engine wound up and get that good run down the back straightaway. Now, speaking of the engine, the RPM here on these long straightaways, it's high and sustained. In practice yesterday, we saw RPM at 95, 9600. That's hard on the engine, and the biggest thing it's hard on is the valve springs and the cylinder head. This is what one looks like when it's good. If you turn it too many RPM for too long, this is basically what it looks like here. It will break, and you will be basically on 7 cylinders. Now, the other thing, as far as one of the keys here, I know we're not at Pocono, but we're at Michigan. But again, we have a race that normally doesn't have a lot of cautions. We get those long green runs. There's no question, 19 gallons of fuel in the fuel cell, 4.5 to 4.6 miles to the gallon. These crew chiefs from the start of the race, the green flag, they'll have to be thinking about fuel mileage and fuel strategy. Now, Kyle, you're a driver. You've had to save fuel before. You go back to Pocono last week. What are things that a driver can do like Tony Stewart did to save almost over 2 gallons of fuel in that race?
You know what Tony really got to doing at the end of the race was really rolling out of the gas really smooth and rolling back in, which doesn't just jump in and out of the carburetor. That was a big plus. The other thing that he did, if he could have done, if they had cautions, was to cut the car off. And when you reach up and cut the car off and coast, you know, totally change the fuel mileage numbers. You know, I've had a million people Twitter, where's Larry's calculator? When you're on that calculator, you've got one number. But when that guy is out there in that car and he's doing something totally different than what the crew chief knows, it throws the crew chief off too. So the driver has to do the same thing all day to save gas.
Guys, should it bother me that I'm the only guy shorter than the fuel can here? Should I?
Maybe, but you know what? He mentioned cutting the engine off. In the countdown to green, I'm going to show you another way to save fuel.
All right, there you go. A little tease for you. Hey, we are so pleased to be joined by a special guest now. 5-time Grammy nominee. The guy sold 22 million records, and he will be calling the start of the race today. Kid Rock joining us on the side. How you doing?
Very well.
Hey, how excited. Grand Marshal, I mean, that's kind of a big deal. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, I never thought I'd be called Grand. No, it's great. The weather's beautiful, man. I love NASCAR. I love racing. It's my son's birthday. It's perfect.
All right, well, tell him happy birthday from all of us. Hey, my question for you, you grew up in this area, so obviously we all know music was such a big part of your life. How much were cars a part of your life?
Huge. My dad sold Ford Lincoln Mercurys. Of course, my guitar player's here with his dad, who worked on the auto line for his whole life. Pretty much everybody I know is in the tool and die company somewhere building something for something. And, you know, it's tough times right now, but it's not our first time down. We'll be back.
Yeah, we were just at the Henry Ford Museum over at the Henry Ford, and you've got a Lincoln in there that's a bad butt Lincoln, man, with suicide rear doors and stuff. How many cars you got? Do you have a collection or just?
Yeah, I've been getting into it. I just put a 1930 V16 Cadillac, first V16 ever made off the line in 1930, which you know, I'm really getting into it more, especially, you know, when I love pieces of American history, and especially when it's a piece of Detroit, you know, our Motor City heritage too. So I love cars.
All right, I got one more question. You're here with Robbie Gordon. All right, now. You think, would you ride with him in the Baja? I mean, he just won and he was feeling like, what do you think about that kind of deal?
I told him, I said, Robbie, I heard you weren't playing nice at the Baja, man. What happened?
Robbie plays nice most of the time, not always.
I'd love to go with a trip for him through the Baja.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds like a lot of fun, you know. Anything with wheels and an engine, I'd love to try it out anytime once.
All right, Kid Rock, we know one of the most exciting times of your concert is when the lights go down and they're waiting on Kid Rock to come out on that stage. At a NASCAR race, the most exciting time is when the Grand Marshal gives that command. You got to put your heart and soul. We don't want no mild start your engines.
We're counting on way down deep. We are counting on you.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Hey, great stuff. Really appreciate you stopping by. Have a lot of fun with it today. Good luck to your car, too. I know you're on that car, Robbie Gordon. So, hey, Kid Rock, stopping by. Never know what you're going to get here NASCAR Live on TNT. Plenty more straight ahead. The race, well, it's coming up on us real quick. Don't go anywhere.
Our TNT coverage continues live from the Michigan International Speedway in the Irish Hills of Michigan. On Friday, Brian Vickers scored his second career pole here at the Michigan International Speedway. So, Brian, when you look at today's race, 400 miles, what's the biggest challenge for you gauging what you saw in practice on Friday and Saturday?
staying in the front. I mean, it's always, you know, sitting on the pole is already challenging enough, but to stay up there for 400 miles is a whole nother story. There's a lot of competitive teams and cars out there. And as this track changes and it goes through the race and you go through runs, the car changes a lot throughout a run, and trying to keep that car up front. Track position is going to be very important, but that first pit stall is going to help a lot.
It seems like with the Team Red Bull family, excitement at every corner, and for you, you had a chance this week to take an e-ticket ride.
Yeah, to say the least. We had this harebrained scheme to do a pit stop in Manhattan in Times Square above all things, and it was unbelievable. It was so cool. I love that city. It's an amazing place. The city was really cool about the whole deal and working with us, and the pit stop was incredible. I mean, just to be able to drive a race car through Manhattan, to hear it just echoing off the buildings, I think it really brought a lot of great response. I mean, the people in the streets were just absolutely loving it. You know, we pulled up in Times Square. The pit crew guys jumped out, did a pit stop, a full-blown pit stop, fuel and everything, and I peeled out sideways, smoke rolling, and just took off down 7th Avenue, and then just made a few laps, and that was it.
He took the e-ticket ride in NYC. Today he's hoping to take that 83 car to victory lane. Let's go back to the rig and Mark Fine.
Thanks very much, Matt. All right, time now for the latest in our Pride of NASCAR series. This week it's Darrell Waltrip, a 3-time champion, also the proud owner of the sport's proverbial black hat for years. But he eventually drove cars for 2 of his most bitter rivals. So how do you tell the story of Darrell Waltrip? Well, through the cars in his garage, of course. Larry Mack had the opportunity to take a tour of that garage with DW, and they started with the car that got him the girl.
Well, I had called Stevie up and asked her for a date, and she told me she couldn't go. You don't tell the Fonz you can't go on a date, you know?
You don't tell the man.
No, you don't tell the man. So anyway, I was put out, really big time. And about that time, Stevie comes in her little 442.
Brand new.
Brand new, baby. I tell the boys, come on down, I want to show y'all something. So we go down, and Stevie's in the car. I said, Stevie, can I show the guys the engine in your car? And she said, well, sure. So I come around, I pop the hood pins, I open up the hood, and while I'm under there, I take the coil wire out. Sure enough, about time for her to get going, you know, she starts crying. So I get out and I run down. I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? She said, my car won't start. So I pop the hood up, put the coil wire back in. I say, step out and let me try it. I said, because you got to know something about a car like this. So she steps out and I mash her wide open. I crank her a few times. That thing fires up.
It's on from there 39 years later.
Here comes Waltrip underneath. Waltrip has the lead. Darrell Waltrip wins the Rebel 500.
About midway through 75, a team that operated out of Daytona Beach, Florida. Pretty renowned team, Dyguard Racing. Bill and Jim Gardner came to DW and said, we want you to drive our car. They had a major sponsor in Gatorade.
This car was my stepping stone. I'd gone from virtually unknown to an opportunity to have a sponsor like this. They did commercials, and it was in the grocery stores, and they had stand-ups, and we had so much success.
You were starting to get into a little bit of tiff with the fans. It got so ugly one time that you just said, look, if anybody don't like me, meet me in the Kmart parking lot in Franklin, Tennessee, and we'll settle our differences.
You know, I had a run-in with the drivers, a lot of them at the time. I had a run-in with NASCAR, and then my popularity with the fans was, I had none. They saw me as a loudmouth kid from Kentucky. I enjoyed playing the role of the bad guy for a while because it got me recognition. To get up on Sunday morning or Monday morning after a race and see your name in big black letters as the headline.
Didn't matter what it said below it.
Didn't matter whether I won or lost. You know, my name would be Petty Wins and Waltrip Says.
Darrell Waltrip out of turn number 4 onto the straightaway, and the checkered flag falls.
So you get a call from Junior Johnson. Cale Yarborough had been driving for him.
It was perfect for me, and you mentioned Cale. In 1980, Cale came to me and he said, you know, we've been rivals on the racetrack. He said, but I know Junior really would like to have you drive his car, and I'm getting ready to leave. I'm going to go drive for MC Anderson. I'm tired of running all the races. If you're a smart man, you'll get in that race car. You're going to win a lot of races and make a lot of money. It was a marriage really made in heaven. This car defines my career. I went from being just a snotty-nosed kid driving a race car to a champion.
You didn't have a problem leaving a winning operation. In 1987, you moved on to Hendrick Motorsports with the Tide sponsorship.
I felt like I'd run my course at juniors. We'd done everything we could do, and he was getting disenchanted with me, and I was getting disenchanted with him. But when Rick called me and asked me about driving for him, Hendrick Motorsports was in its infancy.
Looking back at the leader, Darrell Waltrip. from Rusty Wallace's camera.
It was kind of odd how that race went. We had all kind of problems, and Goodyear tires withdrawn, went to Hoosier tires, car drove terrible, in and out of the pits all day long, but at the end of the day, we were able to stay out, and everybody ran out of fuel, and everybody had to pit, and we won the race.
After 17 years of effort, the Daytona 500 belongs to Franklin, Tennessee's Darrell Waltrip. He's done it.
It wasn't the best car I'd ever had at Daytona, but it was the best strategy I'd ever had.
The one at Daytona 500! Darrell, how long?
Wait. This is the Daytona 500, isn't it?
You bet it
Don't tell me it isn't. Thank God. I'd seen the Icky Shuffle, you know, in some of the football games, and it just kind of all clicked at one time, and I went around, did that, and spiked the helmet, and the rest is history.
We talked about you being the villain, wearing the black hat for over 10 years in our sport, and all it took was someone getting into you in turn 4, late in the All-Star race. Rusty Wallace spins you out, and that was, no pun intended, that turned the tide right there in the fans' reaction to that.
It really did. I thought he was a better driver than that. I didn't think about him driving in there over his head and running into him and spinning me out, but he did. And the fans, all the fans went nuts, but things were really going great. It was one of the most gratifying years I think I'd ever had. And so people were starting to warm up to DW, and I'm a family man now, and I was starting to use my head and stop running my mouth, and it was starting to pay off, and then that just was icing on the cake. That put it over the top, and in 1989, I won Most Popular Driver.
You actually won it back-to-back, I think, 89 and 90.
Again in 90, and 90 was a year where, as good as 89 was, 90 was disastrous. And what was really bad about it was that was the year that I told Rick Hendrick that I wanted to leave the Hendrick Motorsports Group and start my own team.
Your team was being sold in early 1998, and you kind of were without a ride to some degree. Steve Park, he gets hurt at Atlanta, and you get a phone call from Dale Earnhardt Sr. about this Pennzoil car.
You could have pushed me over with a feather. Michael called me and gave me a heads up. He called me and he said, Dale's going to call you. He wants you to drive his car, and I just wanted you to have time to think about it. And so I said, no, I said, he may have told you he's going to call me, but he ain't going to call me. But he did.
We paid him some incentives to even qualify first day, and so his other car owner he used to drive for, which is a real, pretty tight guy, wouldn't do, so we've offered some incentive on qualifying and things. I think we'll pump the driver up now and get the car owner out of the way.
You got the call, your brothers win the last lap. We let you have it, and you run with it.
You got him, Mikey. You got him, man. You got him. Come on, man. I don't think I've ever had a day where my emotions were so high. I was so excited for my brother. He was going to win his first Cup race, driving for Dale.
Come on, get him in the 4. Get him in the 3 car down. Oh, big trouble. Big wreck behind him. Beat him back. Come on. To the flag.
Come on, Mikey. You got it, man. You got it. You got it. You got it.
You got it.
Mikey! Oh, man, this is the greatest day of our lives. And then, I don't remember if we had a replay. I don't remember what happened, but I just remember taking my focus and then turning it up toward turn 3.
Darrell, is this better than winning it?
Oh, it's better. This is great. I hope Dale was okay. I guess he's all right, isn't he? And I saw Kenny Schrader running, and I saw people running, and then I saw a replay of the wreck, and that's when I got a knot.
Wasn't right.
I got a knot in my stomach, and I knew something wasn't right. I don't think anything affected me or this sport the way that did. I've always had a passion for the sport, and so it's been natural to marry those two things together. I'm just as excited going to the racetrack today as I was 28 years ago.
Well, guys, he talked about his passion for the sport, and I guess, Larry Mack, my question to you is, and a super job by you and John O'Connor putting that together. It was a great tour through his life through racing. You get to work with the guy quite a bit. What's he like to hang out with? What kind of guy is he?
Well, the thing about it, I think the key word is passion, Mark. You know, yeah, we've been together for 9 years, and I never worked with Darrell on a race team.
Right.
But no matter what Darrell does or participate in, you can tell he has a passion. He had a passion for racing. He has a passion for God. He has a passion for his family. He has a passion for his friend. And even though I never worked with him on the race car, to be together in the broadcast booth for 9 years, I'm passionate to say he's one of my best friends.
And so many people think of him as a broadcaster now, which is interesting. But Kyle, I mean, tied for third all-time wins.
Yeah, tied for third all-time was a great race car driver. And I want to echo what Larry said. He is still to this day incredibly passionate about this sport. But let me be real clear about this too, because I lived in a house with Richard Petty. He was a loudmouth punk kid when he came along in the 70s. I heard it from Richard Petty every night how loudmouth he was. But the deal was, he's like somebody else that's out here on the racetrack. He backs it up. He backs it up, and you can't argue that point. And then, just like Larry said, there was a turning point, and when that point turned, he became a tremendous ambassador for this sport and still is.
He said he remembered the first time the King took
Long
that index finger and cut
baby.
across the tin and stuck it in that chest.
I've seen that finger a lot, baby. Long finger.
Time to point our finger and use it on one of those computers now. We want you to, again, head to NASCAR.com, Race Buddy, and get involved in our show. Ask the Booth is what we're doing right now. And we had a question from Sue. I'm scrolling through trying to find it here. Sue, guys, wanted to know what the white lines on the racetrack are for. She said they don't drive in lanes. Why is there a white line out on the racetrack? So why don't you, Kyle, you want to handle that one?
You got me. Okay.
Well, you got the bottom line.
You got the bottom line, and you've got the wall on the outside. A lot of places have gone from taking the white lines on the racetrack off because it upsets the asphalt. It creates a little ripple there. And these racetracks, you see this racetrack, you only see the bottom line, and then you see the blend line coming out of the pits to stay below. There's the white line on the bottom, but there's no marks. Used to, all tracks had lanes. I don't know why they thought they needed lanes, but a place like this, that is your lane. From the bottom to the wall, that's your lane.
That's your lane.
They've about done away with them with all tracks. The one track I can think of is Talladega still has them, but when they're trying to run 4 wide, you need a line to kind of mark where you need to be.
Way to go. All right. Hey, Sue, thanks for the question. Again, you got a question, head to NASCAR.com and Race Buddy. Coming up, Richard Childress and Clint Boyer on the set. Boyer, 4 top 10s in the first 6 races. Hasn't done as well as of late. He'll start 9th today. Later in Countdown to Green, Wally walking through the track while cars drive on the track. The new look Wally's World that everybody is talking about. Of course, just around the corner, NASCAR's best take to the track. A track they first raced on back in 1969. Kelly Yarborough won that race. Who will take the checkers today? Stay tuned.
Fans come to their feet, lined up along pit road, all the teams watching closely, getting ready for the green flag here at Michigan. Glad you were along for the ride this afternoon here on TNT. Green flag's in the air.
I just remember cautions were coming out and we were trying to save gas, and we were shutting the motor off under caution and coasting and doing everything we could to try to save as much gas as we could. And when the green came out, we went around 1 and 2 and held on to the lead, and then they had a wreck on the front straightaway that brought the caution back out and ended up winning the race for it.
76 races since he last went to victory lane, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the winner at Michigan.
I was excited. I was really happy. Yeah, wasn't no relief. I was just thrilled.
And there's a look at the 88 as they get it ready to go today. Guys, 112 races, just that one win at this track last year. But did you get a feeling this week and listening to Junior and the team talk that they might be starting to get it back together?
Hey, you know, there are only 2 races in it, and this is really Lance's first full race. So I think when you look at it like that, you know, I said it Dover. It's going to take some time. I liked what he said right there. Wasn't really a thrill, it was just relief, you know, or it wasn't really relief, it was a thrill. I think he's looking for some relief right now.
You know, the thing that always puzzled me about that win, I'm sure it puzzles Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the 88 team. Up into that win, they were top 5s, top 10s every single week. Top 3 in points. They won that race on race number 15. There were 21 more races in 2008. They only got 5 top 10 finishes. It's like the wheel ran off after they won that race, and they're still hunting it 1 year later.
All right, well, we are going to shift gears ourselves right now. Now, if you have not logged on to NASCAR.com to check out the Ponytail Express, you can who that reference is. You need to watch this next
It's
segment.
not me.
Larry McReynolds. It's Larry McReynolds.
Get out your computer, watch it in its entirety. Kyle, now your sidekick is Rutledge Wood.
Yes.
They are on his motorcycle going from, and you are really doing this.
Yes,
you
we
are
really did. We rode up through West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, wherever. We got to Michigan somehow. I don't know how, but we got here.
Well, and when they got here, they did some test driving at the Ford headquarters, and then they took an amazing tour through the Henry Ford Museum. Take a look.
Are we lost? You have to know where you're going to be lost. We're going to pull over. Maybe we should just get out and ask directions right here in the middle of nowhere.
Who would have thought we'd be here at Ford Motor Company on their own private test track riding with Carl Edwards?
Here we go.
Wait, we can jump. There's a jump up here.
Whoa!
How wicked is that, considering they run 850 horsepower today?
Miley Cyrus, Girls Night Out.
He got in that car, too. I was lucky enough to go along with you guys on that tour of that museum. That was fantastic. What a good time.
The Henry Ford Museum at the Henry Ford is an incredible place. If you're ever up here, we got to go to the test track, but the museum is incredible.
All right.
We all love Rutledge Wood. We have 4 more weeks, 4 more races of TNT. You could lose him, and he would have a tough time finding us in 4 weeks, I think.
You know, but he's one of those things that's like a bad penny. Somebody's going to bring him back. It doesn't make it. He's a great guy, and he does a great job.
All right, guys, coming up, something we've been looking forward to. Owner and driver Richard Childress. He's got championships in all 3 of NASCAR's series, and driver Clint Boyer behind the wheel of one of his 3 cars that made the chase each of the last 2 seasons. They're next from Michigan. Welcome back to Michigan. Speedway just a stone's throw from Detroit. Lions, Tigers, and Wings, oh my. 3 NBA titles, 11 Stanley Cup championships, 4 World Series championships. One of the truly great sports towns in the United States. And welcome back to our set high above the Michigan International Speedway. 14 different winners at this track in the last 14 June races. And guys, we are honored to be joined by a man whose race team was the first to win championships in all 3 NASCAR series. He's got 6 Sprint Cup championships. All 3 cars made the chase in 07 and 08. Owner of RCR Racing, yes, RCR, Richard Childress. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here today. You know, it's a beautiful day out, great day for racing. The fans are going to see a great race.
Well, I want to start. I know you're doing some work with Cheerios that you take very seriously. I want to get right to that because heart health, very important to you, and you and Cheerios working together.
It is, and it's a great deal. This morning we had about 500 people walk around the racetrack. We did a walk this morning. They gave them T-shirts. You're never too old or too young to start being concerned about your health, and especially heart health. That's the idea here with the Cheerios. I had my bowl of Cheerios, walked 2 miles this morning, and lost 16 pounds. And I'm feeling good.
Lost 16 pounds this morning?
This morning.
This morning. Say, wow, give me some of them Cheerios right away.
You know, Richard, we're here at Michigan, the pride of the manufacturers. A big announcement by General Motors this week, basically announcing they're going to pull the support back from the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series and the Nationwide Series. Now, we know that doesn't directly impact the Sprint Cup Series garage, but it indirectly affects a lot of people in that garage. Your driver, Kevin Harvick, has the Camping World Truck Series team that's Chevrolet, and your involvement in the Nationwide Series, winning the championship last year.
Yeah, you know, the thing about it, you know, they're going through a tough time right now. They went through the bankruptcy deal, and once it's all gone and cleared up, I know that General Motors will be back in our sport because this is such a great platform for them to showcase their products, and they sell cars on Monday after their cars win on Sunday.
Yeah, you know, we come up here, you run the Daytona 500, you run the Coca-Cola 600. This was always a big show place. All the dignitaries and everybody from the manufacturers come out. Is the feel different this race with Chrysler being in bankruptcy and with Chevy having some of their trucks? Is the feel different from the Detroit area for what you guys are experiencing here?
I think the thing that is different is you don't see all the executives here today. They're all having to be back and doing their work. But this has always been a place where all the employees for all the different manufacturers, their families, it's a lot of pride put in to winning this race for your manufacturer. And we've been fortunate to win it before for Chevy, and I think y'all won it back in the Dodge days, and Larry, you guys won it. So in the Ford, so it's a great platform for all these manufacturers to be out here and be represented in Michigan.
All right, time now to bring in a member of the RCR team. He was 5th in points last year, won the Nationwide Series championship, as we've already mentioned a couple of times. Behind the wheel of the number 33 Cheerios for Richard Childress Racing, and it is Clint Boyer as they shuffle him onto the set here. Clint, really appreciate you taking some time and hopping up here with us as well. First of all, I know you guys looked real good in practice yesterday. Tell us how the car is.
Well, your shuffler is very fast, by the way.
Very good.
I think our Cheerios Hamburger Helper Chevrolet is pretty fast, too. Hopefully a little bit faster than he is. Really exciting. Now, everybody's been working really hard at RCR to get things turned around. When we, about 2 months ago, when we hit these bigger racetracks, we hit a little bit of a hurdle, and, everybody regrouped, went back to the shop. Richard had one of his legendary Monday morning meetings, and we all went to work. And the engine shop, chassis shop, engineers, aero guys, everybody went to work and brought us better equipment to the track. And I think all of us as a whole, as a company at RCR, is running a lot better here. So everybody's got a smile on their face, ready for a wonderful afternoon.
Clint, at Darlington, you were involved in a crash, and it brought a streak to an end of 80-something races without a DNF. The thing that amazes me, 123 career starts in Sprint Cups and only 5 DNFs. Working for this man for 4 years, I know that's a big tribute to you, everybody that builds the engines, the transmissions, the gears, everything mechanical about those race cars. But I know it starts right here with this man that says you have to finish races to win championships.
You've worked for him. You must finish to finish first, and those are the words to live by. And
but that's a phenomenal number.
It is, and it's a credit to what he instills in everybody at RCR. The engine boys better make it to the end, and we better do our job to get our equipment to the end. But it goes back to everybody that works on these cars. They build good equipment that make it to the end of these races and give us an opportunity to win the race and compete for a championship.
Okay, I got a couple questions. Tell us your boat story. No, I don't want you to tell me that. I wanted you to move that box because you had your other sponsor hid behind in the Cheerios box. Okay, last week, I thought you had a great run. I thought you guys had really one of the strongest GM runs going. Had nothing to show for it at the end. But, I think you guys went to Daytona strong. You've struggled. You've made that corner. And obviously you feel like you're on the wrong track or right track. What do you see keeping you in the chase and continuing that line of improvement? What do you see, guys, are your strong points?
Hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
Shane Wilson, everybody. We found a problem. We started off awesome. We were 2nd in points. Couldn't have asked for a better start to a season with a brand new team from scratch. It was almost too good to be true. We hit, like I said, we hit some bumps in the road. It's just one of those deals where without testing and the things that helped you get better, we were able to, we were forced in a situation where we had to scratch our heads and work on that in the shop. And, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't when you bring your car to the race on Sunday. And if it doesn't, it just kind of sets you back even that much farther. But, we're over that. Hopefully we got that behind us. And I think everybody's going to have a good day here.
Well, we wish you both the best of luck today, and hopefully today is the day that you turn things around. Thanks for taking some time and joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you
guys, man.
Ford has dominated here. They're hoping that comes to an end. The race moments away. We'll be right back.
NASCAR on TNT Live. Brought to you by Sprint. NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
The grandstand is filling up. Our thanks to Kid Rock, today's Grand Marshal, Richard Childress, and Clint Boyer for joining us. Coming up next, Bill Weber and Wally Dallenbach. Countdown to green.
For many of these fans, this is a home game. Friends and family moving into the Irish Hills of Michigan for a weekend at the track. No matter where they have come from, and they have come from all over, they're all here for the same reason. It's race day at Michigan International Speedway. It's also a home game for these guys. The distance from the track to downtown Detroit is not measured in miles, it's measured in wins. This week, the racing news was made off the track, but today, these men hope to make headlines on the track as NASCAR, once again, comes home to Michigan.
Owner, driver, points leader, defying all expectations, Tony Stewart has stunned the NASCAR world.
The things that he set out to accomplish this year were huge. I personally didn't believe he could get it done. I did not think he would succeed the way he has so far.
Smoke rolled into Pocono on a wave of consistency when late race dramatics threatened to prevail.
They're playing the fuel strategy, hoping they can all hang on. You're just going to have to drop the hammer.
Number 14 held off a storming field to capture his first Sprint Cup victory of the season.
Tony Stewart's going to take that team to victory lane.
Today, it's Michigan, and a new story awaits. It's not just about who has won this season, but who has not. Will this track bend to the will of a favorite, or will the furious pace of this speedway vault an underdog across the line? 43 drivers, 400 screaming miles. This track knows who can compete and who merely stands in its way. The drama is waiting. The NASCAR on TNT Summer Series continues.
This is the TNT NASCAR Countdown to Green as we get ready to go racing at Michigan. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series first started racing here in 1969. This wide and fast 2-mile track has a racy reputation for speed, and while it has a romantic history with horsepower, the most cherished commodity in any race at Michigan is fuel, and we all know how that works. Hi everybody, the TNT Race family, happy to welcome you to Michigan. I'm Bill Weber. Last week heading into Pocono, the top story was Tony Stewart. This week heading into Michigan, the top story is Tony Stewart at Pocono. A rugged racer, a rebuilt team, and a powerful performance, proving that this is one guy who is not going to run out of gas.
All right, boys and girls, welcome to Pocono. Break this thing back to the front after we drop to the back. Have a little fun today and bring us home a little triangle trophy.
And Tony Stewart's going to take that team to victory lane.
God, I'm proud of you guys. You make me look like a genius in here. Sorry, genius, dude. We don't tell you how to save fuel. I just hope you save yourself enough till you burn out.
And the only thing more impressive than Tony Stewart's start to the 2009 season is when you look at his racing resume, the months of June, July, and August, 19 of his 34 victories have come when the temperature goes up. And Smoke, using a poker analogy, where you are in the points, Darian Grubb-Yakuchi said that he feels like you guys don't have to go all in, but you can definitely be a little more aggressive now, trying to get those bonus points so when they reset the format for the chase, you're going to have a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, it gives us some flexibility to either try things or take chances during the race that we normally wouldn't have the opportunity to do. So it's nice being in that position again. It's been a while, but we have that luxury. But a lot of us are thinking about Johnny Benson, and I want to say hi to Johnny. I know he's in the hospital. He got hurt in a super modified crash last night, so just want Johnny Benson to know we're thinking about him and get feeling better.
Definitely our thoughts all go out to JB, a Michigan native here. Tony Stewart, he'll roll off just outside the top 10 in 11. Let's go to Ralph Shaheen.
Matt, Flag Day this year also happens to be the 234th birthday of the U.S. Army. Ryan Newman would like to deliver a victory as a present. Your boss has one. Can you get one today?
We have a shot, yeah. The U.S. Army Chevrolet was pretty good yesterday. We made a few changes, but just being here on the Army's birthday, 234 years, like you said, I'm pretty sure that if it wasn't for the Army, we wouldn't be here doing what we are today, and I'll do what I can to try to get that victory for him.
Bill, he's on a roll. 6 straight top 10s, 5 of those top 6 races in the top 5.
Thank you, Ralph. Here are the Sprint Cup standings with 12 races remaining before the chase. Stewart in the lead, a win here. Jeff Gordon has a pair of wins in Michigan. Johnson's best finish here is 3rd. Edwards and Biffle still looking for their first win this year. Kyle Busch has slipped to 9th in points. Rudiman and Hamlin can not only hear Mark Martin chasing them, they can feel it. And like we talked about last week, these guys 14th on back need to start making some kind of move. This week, Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes in 20th in points, 245 out of the chase. That's the first lap. Coming up on the TNT NASCAR Countdown to Green, some big names on the racing future of the bow tie. Wally takes a trip on pit road, and Larry McReynolds on how to save after you've been to the pump. This is the TNT NASCAR Countdown to Green from Michigan.
Countdown to Green is brought to you by the U.S. Army. Watch drivers battle for position on the U.S. Army Battle Cam, only on TNT's Race Buddy on NASCAR.com. And by Subway, home of the famous $5 footlong.
Mark Martin is the man that put Jack Roush in victory lane at Michigan 19 years ago, the first of Mark's 4 wins here. Matt Kenseth is a 2-time winner at this track, and so is his teammate Greg Biffle. Carl Edwards also is a 2-time winner here. Roush Fenway has 11 wins here, including 5 of the last 9 races. Down the Lindsey Zarniak.
Thank you, Bill, and you can see Carl Edwards right now waving to all the fans. Carl, by many considered the class of the Roush field here at Michigan. You've won 2 of the last 4 races, so what, do you think you're going to be doing the celebratory backflip here today?
I hope so. We had the chance to stop by Ford World headquarters on the way here to the track, and man, I'm so proud to be driving a Ford right now with everything they're doing. They got the best vehicles and best fuel mileage, and you know, hopefully we can put this Aflac Fusion in victory lane. It feels like forever since we won a race. But we've been running better and better, and Greg's real good, Matt's real good. I think Mark Martin's extremely good, so we'll have to beat him, but it should be a great race.
There you hear it. Carl Edwards going to have a tough day weaving his way up from the 29th starting spot, Bill.
Thank you, Lindsay. On Friday, General Motors delivered the blow everyone in this sport knew was coming. Across-the-board financial cuts will affect GM's involvement in NASCAR. Junior Motorsports, a business marriage between Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Rick Hendrick, will no longer receive manufacturer support. Same for Kevin Harvick Incorporated. The Sprint Cup Series support is also expected to be part of the cutback. GM made the announcement as teams were preparing for this event, so many are racing today and wondering about tomorrow.
I haven't talked directly to the people at GM. I'm going to be talking with them next week, and I can be a little more knowledgeable about really what's going on. I do know there have been some cutbacks, and I think the impact overall is going to be pretty tough on our sport and individual teams as we move forward.
We don't know the full scope of what the cutbacks are going to be yet, but we do know that GM's going to be there, and Chevrolet especially is going to be in racing. It's just at what level. And, you know, we've been partners for over 25 years, and whatever it is, you know, we're going to be there to support them.
Never satisfied when somebody reduces their support to the sport. We understand why they will have to do it and why all of their partners will be affected in some way or another. And our job is to figure out how to work with them on the other side and build this new company that they want to build and be a big part of that.
Can you exist without manufacturer support?
I was around before we had financial and technical support from the manufacturers, and we survived and the sport survived. We'll all just have to adjust to it, but I really have confidence that General Motors will be back and be back in our sport because it's such a great platform for them to display their products.
We're very confident this is a very structurally sound sport, and again, we will get through this or any other set of circumstances because the sport's 60-plus years old, and we're fortunate to have the fan base, the energy around this sport that we do, and we will, like everybody else, put our head down, figure it out, and have the best racing in the world come this Sunday.
And right now, everybody in that garage really wants to thank the fans for their support. I'm joined by Wally Dallenbach. We knew heading to Daytona in February the series was going to have a little different look this year. Big teams are able to insulate themselves from most of the trouble, but the smaller teams really cannot. There are a handful of teams here today that do not plan to run the entire race, but there's more than one side of the story to these start and park teams.
There is, and I was one of those guys who went, you know what? These guys are starting and they're making all these races, and hey, this is a great way to make $1 million off of this deal. But it's not like that. It really is. It costs these guys a lot of money. I talked to people like Joe Nemechek in the Cup team and Phil Parsons in the truck team. You know, these guys are employing 10 people, maybe more, that wouldn't have jobs if they weren't doing it the way they're doing it. And what they're doing is they're coming to the racetrack and they're making a presence. They're in that garage area because each one of these teams, they're working on sponsors as we speak. They have a lot of people that they're talking to. And the only way that you're going to impress a sponsor if you get them to the racetrack is if your car's sitting in this garage area. So they're struggling. They're trying to do whatever they can. They're trying to find a sponsor not only for maybe next week, but also for next year. So this is really important that they have a presence at the track and they just keep digging. Because another thing is if you're away from the racetrack, and you miss 4 or 5 races or you're not around, you fall behind a lot. I mean, this sport changes all the time.
This morning, Brian France told us that NASCAR plans to help these smaller teams get through this time. Your question is how?
Well, yeah, I'd love to see how NASCAR is going to help. But if there's any way they can and they can ease the pain on some of these smaller teams, you know, we can't afford to lose any more race teams right now. So any help that NASCAR can give, I'm sure that is going to be welcome from, you know, from people like Joe Nemechek that, you know, he's been around a long time. He knows how to wheel a race car. He just needs, you know, a sponsor so they can get back on track.
And every one of those guys is here because they love it, too. All right, we'll see you when we go racing. Next on the TNT NASCAR Countdown to Green, Wally is back on the track at Michigan. And then it's time for a little advice on gas from Larry McReynolds. Wait a minute. That should have said gasoline. Who wrote that? Kyle Busch starts outside the front row this afternoon. He finished second here last August. Jimmy Johnson starts third. His best finish here is third. Dale Earnhardt Jr. starts in the 30th position. That's his the 6th time in the last 8 races he has started 27th or worse. Drivers love to race here. It's smooth, wide, and fast. Plenty of room to race. And as Wally shows us, plenty of lanes to pick from. Make 400 miles here a fun trip.
Welcome to the Irish Hills of Michigan, just outside of Jackson at Michigan International Speedway. MIS is a fast track that provides plenty of great racing. Now, one of the things to watch today is the crew chief's strategy during pit stops, which will provide the team valuable track position late in the race. Whoop, sorry. One of the reasons that the team can gamble on the 2-tire stop is because of the style of racing here at MIS. And this racetrack is not hard on tires. You'll see a lot of 3- and 4-wide racing around this oval because of the multiple racing lines. Now, some drivers prefer to race the bottom of the track and take advantage of the low line, while at the same time, another driver has enough room and speed to grab onto the high line and challenge for position. A driver may start running the low line, but as the track changes, as well as the handling of his car, a driver will start searching for grip. He may want to run the low line, but he may be forced to run high. At the end of the afternoon, one of today's drivers will end up first at the finish line by skill, a little luck, and great fuel mileage.
If you Twitter, you know Kyle Petty made it from North Carolina to Michigan on his motorcycle on 1 tank of gas. And Rutledge wasn't too happy about having to push it for 300 of those miles. But with the price at the pump and the price for losing climbing higher every week, you and I aren't the only ones that want to save a little fuel here and there. Larry McReynolds is standing by for Leadfoot Lesson 101. Professor?
Well, Bill, I'm a little cramped up in torque right now, but I think we're seeing where teams and drivers are learning more and more ways to conserve fuel when you're trying to stretch that fuel mileage. The most obvious way, especially under green flag racing, is for the driver just to roll out of the throttle a little early. Let the car coast and idle longer, pick up the throttle late on the exit of the corner, and just stay off the throttle as much as possible. Also shorten the racetrack up. You don't want to run the high groove because that distance is longer. But another way that they'll do it, especially under caution, is just simply, and I know Dale Earnhardt Jr. did this last year when he won this race, is simply reach up here to the ignition switch and just flip the switch off. Kill the engine. Let the engine coast. Then once you need to build up speed, you just fire the engine back up, pop the clutch, and you're ready to go. But here's the latest and greatest way to save fuel. Once again, I think under caution. NASCAR mandates this kill switch on the steering wheel. What this is, in case a throttle hangs, the driver just simply pushes this switch, it shuts the engine off. What I think some drivers are doing at a lot of places is they kill the engine with that switch right there. They push the clutch in, pull it back in neutral, let the car coast. When they gain so little speed and they need to get going again, they re-engage the switch, push the clutch in, go to 4th gear, pop the clutch just like you would on a jump start, and away they go. And at a big racetrack, you may be able to do that 2 or 3 times a lap. I guarantee you this way is going to be used if we have to save fuel under caution.
Thanks, Larry. We'll give you an A for that description, too. Last Saturday morning at Pocono, Wally and I walked into the 5-car garage, and there was Mark Martin. Bright eyes, firm handshake, big smile. Really big smile. We talked for a while, then Mark had to climb in his car. I've known Mark for almost 20 years. Wally raced with him. WD and I said the same thing at the same time. We've never seen Mark happier. Mark is a moving roller coaster of emotions, but right now he has the E-ticket for the ride of his life.
Through the trioval, Mark Martin wins the Champion Smart 1 400.
He wins
his 9th career NASCAR Winston Cup race. Mark Martin wins the DeVilbiss 400.
This event is 4th on this track. Ladies and gentlemen, your champion, Mark Martin.
And those were Mark Martin's 4 Michigan wins. And many people in the garage area this morning said driver number 5 stands a very good chance to get Michigan win number 5 today. Mark Martin, you agree with that?
We got a great race car, and, you know, we didn't qualify good. It broke our hearts. You know, we thought we'd do better, but, man, we hit the racetrack on Saturday, and from lap 1, this baby was rolling. So I'm real excited for this team. It's just really a lot of work, a lot of fun to go to work every day when you're working with Alan and everybody on the Kellogg's CarQuest Chevy.
Just 1 point out of the chase right now. So what kind of mode does that put you in? Can you be aggressive in going for wins, or do you have to be conservative right now?
Well, you know, Dick Trickle taught me a long, long time ago, in order to finish first you must finish. So, you know, we go after every one of them, and we fight, and we'll take what we can get.
Today, of course, June 14th. Now, the last time we raced at Michigan on June 14th, the winner that day, Mark Martin. Bill?
Marty, look that up. A.J. Allmendinger needed half a gallon of gas to finish off a terrific Pocono weekend. Today, he has his best starting spot of the season. He rolls off next to Kurt Busch, a 2-time winner at Michigan. This is the TNT NASCAR Countdown to Green.
Countdown to Green is brought to you by the U.S. Army. Watch drivers battle for position on the U.S. Army Battle Cam, only on TNT's Race Buddy on NASCAR.com. And by Subway, home of the famous $5 footlong.
The countdown continues from Michigan. There have been 79 Sprint Cup races at this track. 51 of the 79 have been won from a top 5 starting spot. This guy is our buddy. He should be yours. Race Buddy is online at NASCAR.com, and he's there to add to your race watching pleasure. He's got a lot going on. Talked to a lot of fans this week that enjoyed his return. If you get a chance, check him out while watching the race along with us. It's all going on at NASCAR.com. Right now, time to get you back down to pit road, and here's Matt with Matt.
And Bill, if you're a Matt Kenseth fan, you know that usually he's lethal if he starts in the Kenseth zone, 16th to 25th, and that's the zone where he starts today. I talked to some of your teammates. They think you're the sleeper today. How would you describe your car at the end of happy hour? The feel you're looking for?
Not really. Drew and Chip have been pretty happy with the speed of our car Ford Fusion all weekend, but it hasn't drove exactly like I would like. Although it was much better Friday than Saturday, so I'm hoping with these conditions and some of the changes we made that hopefully we'll have it all right.
The 2-time winner here looking for number 3. Ralph?
Well, David Rudiman had a great top 3 finish just a week ago at Pocono. Fuel mileage was the key for that victory. Were you guys that good on fuel, or how much of that was luck?
I don't know. I think, Pocono, we actually were very good on fuel. I think the best fuel mileage we've gotten all year, and all that comes back to Toyota and Toyota Racing Development for giving us a good horsepower with a little bit of fuel mileage to go with it. So, again, we'll see what we do today. You know, sometimes this race comes down to a few mileage deal, too, so we'll see how it stacks up.
Lindsay, he's going to start from the second row today.
Thanks, Ralph. Denny Hamlin here talking to his teammate Joey Logano and his crew chief Greg Zipadelli. You had a frustrating weekend ending 38th at Pocono, a track where you're always the favorite. Do you feel like you can bounce back this time?
I certainly hope so. We'll see. If I make it through turn 1, then it's more of an accomplishment than what we had last week. But our FedEx Camry was really good in practice. We were pretty happy with it. And I think it's going to race well. You know, usually we've been pretty fast in practice and haven't been the greatest during the race, but I think today's going to be a different scenario.
At least he's got a sense of humor, right, Marty?
That's exactly right. Jeff Gordon has a sense of humor. He has to start from the back today, so that should be fun. Last week, the winner came from the back, so can you pull that off this afternoon, Jeff?
Well, I certainly think that we have the car to do it. Really excited about the way the DuPont National Guard year of the NCO Chevrolet was running yesterday. You know, we knew we were going to be coming from the back, so we played around the car a little bit in traffic. I think we got to set the car up to turn the middle a little bit better, which might make it a little freer off. But in traffic, I think that's what's going to help us get to the front. The car was really strong yesterday, and you know, we're just going to have to be patient with the double file restarts, see how they play out. Hopefully they play in our favor, unlike last week. And this is a big, wide racetrack, so there's a lot of racing lines and room out there. So of any of the tracks, you know, this is one that you can start in the back, come to the front if you got a good car.
Well, let's talk about those double file restarts real quick. Does that play to your advantage today? It seems like it would be an advantage.
Well, it's an advantage in that, you know, your track position isn't you're not racing lead lap cars and lap down cars. You know, if you're in good shape, your car's good. So that's an advantage. But you know, this car, you really got to understand how the aerodynamics work and not put yourself in a bad position. And I did that last week. I think I learned from it. And this track's a lot wider, a lot different. So hopefully we'll play to our advantage.
All right, Bill, he mentioned how good the race car is. He knows it's a good car because this is the car he took to victory lane at Texas earlier this year.
Thank you, Marty. Mark Martin is a 4-time winner at Michigan. We talked to him about that. He has 2 wins this season and 37 victories in his Sprint Cup career. Only 16 drivers have more career victories than Mark. In 37 wins, only 7 times did Mark start outside the top 10. And he has never won a race starting outside the top 25. Today he starts 32nd. We'll see what happens. Now, you don't have to look it up because we already did. The countdown is at 0, and NASCAR on TNT is coming up from Michigan. That's how you get to the track in a hurry. The flyover here at Michigan International Speedway, 400 miles, ready for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Final stories from pit road. Let's take you there.
Thank you so much, Bill. You know, Jimmy Johnson qualified 3rd in this race, but once again, his crew chief, Chad Knaus, has chosen the very last pit box, the one at the entrance right here on pit road. When I asked Chad why he did that, he said part of that reason is because he just likes people to ask him about it in the first place. But honestly, this big space you see right in front of the pit box, it will help Jimmy today in the pits. This is a track, just one of 6, where he has never won. Matt?
Owner Jack Roush had a great Saturday going to victory lane in the Craftsman Truck Series. It's now called Camping World Truck Series. He's trying to go to Sprint Cup victory lane once again with this guy, Greg Biffle. Twice they've gone to victory lane here. Now, if you talk to the Gregs, Irwin, his crew chief, a little more optimistic than Biffle, the driver. But Biffle thinks they've got a pretty good mount. He's gone to victory lane here twice, looking for number 3. Ralph?
Matt, on Friday night, Kurt Busch was riding a Zamboni at Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Today, he's hoping to plow through the field for what would be career victory number 3 here at MIS. He's going to start 5th today. Marty?
Well, Ralph, it's been an interesting week for Brian Vickers. Early in the week, he pulled off a pit stop in Times Square without the city knowing about it. Did not get arrested, thank goodness. But the one good thing for Vickers, very close to a contract agreement with Red Bull Racing to extend his time here. And on the pole, I asked him moments ago, is this one of the best cars you've had all year long? He said, no doubt about it. Good enough to win was my question. He said, probably so. Bill?
Thanks, Marty. Hope you guys and Lindsay have a fun day down there on pit road at Michigan. 9 different winners this season in the first 14 races. 8 of them are in the field today. 13 of the drivers in the starting field here have won at Michigan. There are 7 former series champions in the field. They have combined for 13 championships. There are 13 drivers in the starting field that are looking for their first career Sprint Cup win. Kyle Busch had a decent day on Saturday. Could not get to victory lane. He'll try again this afternoon. Dale Earnhardt Jr. starts deep in this field. That's been a trend. Can they turn it around this week here at Michigan? Tony Stewart went to victory lane at Pocono. Got some help from fuel mileage and a light foot. We'll see what happens this afternoon. Get ready to rock, everybody, because right now we're going to take you trackside and get the command.
And now, race fans, it's time for those most honest words in motorsports. Please welcome back your Grand Marshal, Kid Rock.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
That'll make the highlight reel. Everybody fired up now. The engines roar to life. Green Flag Racing from Michigan coming up next. This is NASCAR on TNT.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing from Michigan International Speedway is brought to you by Coors Light. Get Coors Light pole position alerts on your cell phone. Just text RACE to 42100 to sign up. By the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. By Burger King, who reminds you to have it your way. And by the U.S. Army. Watch drivers battle for position on the U.S. Army Battle Cam. Only on TNT's Race Buddy on NASCAR.com.
Nobody's gonna be my car, it's gonna break the speed of sound.
This is Michigan.
Yes, it is. TNT Sports presents the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Today, it's 400 miles from the Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. As we've talked about, perfect day for racing and for race fans. 74 degrees, might get a little warmer than that. Just a very, very slight chance of showers later today. Hi, everybody. Bill Weber along with Wally Dallenbach and Kyle Petty. Thanks for having us in for the race. 200 miles, 400 laps on some pretty racy surfaces here and some high speeds heading into turn one. It's a blast to drive here, and if you can't be in the car, it's just as much fun to watch.
Everybody comes here and loves this racetrack. All the drivers love this racetrack, and the reason is it's so wide, it's so smooth, and there's about 4 grooves around this place. You can run all over this place. You can get 4 wide on this racetrack, and it's not a problem. And another thing is, it doesn't matter where you qualify. You can qualify all the way in the back, but because there's so much racing room, it doesn't matter. You can work your way up to the front before the first pit stop.
Funny you should mention that. The field qualified here on Friday. Brian Vickers is on the pole, but when you look at the starting grid, there are guys you're going to be watching all over the place as we come to the green.
Yeah, and just as you said, you got to work your way to the front. We've got who? We got Jeff Gordon, we got Mark Martin, we got Junior, we got Carl Edwards, guys that we usually see up front and we think are going to be up front. They're starting at the back. Now up front, we've got Bill Elliott, who absolutely loves this place. We've got John Andretti, who's had a tremendous qualifying effort. He loves this place. And then we've got A.J. Allmendinger.
Right.
I'm blank on that. Sorry about that. A.J. Allmendinger, who has had great weeks the last couple of weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see. Did these guys just do a special qualifying lap or whatever? Can they stay up there, and can these guys come from the back?
And, of course, we'll have double file restart shootout style from the very first restart until the final lap of the race. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's take you through the starting grid for this afternoon's Sprint Cup Series race here at Michigan. Brian Vickers, third pole of the season. That ties Mark Martin. He's next to Kyle Busch on the front row. Row 2, Jimmy Johnson. Next to David Rudiman, the winner at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. In row 3, Kurt Busch. He's been to victory lane here a couple of times, and you heard Kyle talk about AJ. See how he finishes today. In row 4, Juan Pablo Montoya. He's the defending champ. When we get to Sonoma next week, he's next to Casey Kane. Chevrolet for Clint Boyer in row 5. Next to John Andretti, another Chevrolet. Stephen Lane helping John get a good qualifying lap in. In row 6, last week's winner, Tony Stewart. Next to the Childress Chevrolet for Kevin Harvick. In row 7, Robbie Gordon. Next to Denny Hamlin. There's Bill Elliott. He's back there in row 8. Next to a former Michigan winner, Matt Kenseth. Bobby Labonte and Ryan Newman are in row 9. Back in row 10, Martin Truex Jr., and there's Greg Biffle. And as you look at the rest of the starting grid, Kyle is going to try the radio.
Greg Biffle, this is Kyle Petty in the booth. Can you hear me? Greg Biffle, this is Kyle Petty in the booth. Do you hear me?
I got you, Kyle.
Hey, this is pretty cool. I got to tell you straight up, man, you're the first guy I've ever talked to from the booth in another race car. Most of the time I scream at other guys when I'm driving my car, but never talk to somebody. But the weather was a little bit warm on Friday, cool yesterday in practice. You guys got your fuel mileage and you're set up ready for today with the sun out and the way it is?
Well, yeah, Kyle, we think the track's going to be a little bit on the slick side today. You know, we know a little bit warmer, about 7 to 10 degrees warmer today, and a little bit of sun on the race surface. So we know it's going to be a little bit slick, and we're just prepared for it. You know, the guys working on the engine, they made a few adjustments, so we'll get a fuel mileage run this first time, this first stint, see how we are fuel mileage, and hopefully work on our car, work our way to the front in this 3M Ford Fusion.
All right, man, good luck today. Drive it like you drove those cars over at the test track the other day.
I plan on it. Thanks, Kyle.
So Greg Biffle and the rest of the 42 drivers ready to go racing here at Michigan this afternoon. Before we do that, let's check in with Larry McReynolds.
Well, Bill, you just heard Kyle and Greg Biffle talking about how much different this racetrack is today from yesterday. It has lost a ton of grip. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of scrambling in the garage area this morning. But even with that said, we know every time a driver comes to pit road, he'd love to get 4 brand new Goodyear tires. But we also know track position is so important here, and it's hard to pass. So we may see some guys that are starting near the rear have to make a gamble early just to maybe test the waters for possibly late in the race. And I think Ralph Shaheen is with one of those crew chiefs. They qualified 30th, and oh, by the way, a year ago this team gambled and won the race.
That's right, Lance McGrew, crew chief for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car. 2 tires, 4 tires. How will that strategy play out today for you?
Well, I think it really depends on how this AMP Energy National Guard Chevrolet is running. I feel like if we're running strong in the beginning of the race and we're making up spots, they're usually caution around 20 to 30. We'll probably come in and get 4 tires and just keep letting the performance of the car carry us up through the field. Hopefully we won't have to do any tricks with 2 tires to get up there.
Bill, and talking to Lance just a few minutes ago, he was telling me that Junior was very happy with the car at the end of happy hour yesterday. However, Lance didn't have the car where he was happy. So they built a lot of adjustability into the car. So hopefully they can both find a happy median and maybe victory lane today.
Thanks, Ralph. We'll be watching for that. A little over a lap to go before we go green. Some pre-race conversation between Jimmy Johnson and his crew.
Guys, here we go. 200 laps, 400 miles. This is one of those races that really kind of unexpected what's going to happen. We're going to have one tire fall off, be prepared for 2 tires, be prepared for a gas to go at the end. You just don't really know what's going to happen at this track. So just be on your toes, guys. Keep your helmets close by. Keep all your equipment ready to go.
The voice of crew chief Chad Knaus. Before we go racing this afternoon, our best wishes to Johnny Benson, involved in an accident last night at Berlin Raceway. We talked to the people from NASCAR. They've been in contact with Johnny's doctors. He does have some broken ribs and perhaps a damaged lung injury, but we understand he's doing a little bit better today. And Johnny, we hope you're watching and feeling better, and everybody here was asking about you and thinking about you today. So our best get well wishes to Johnny Benson. Take a look at the race analysis. 200 laps, pit road speed 55 miles per hour. The pit window 42 to 46 laps. We'll see how they do that with the fuel here if it comes down to that. And Jeff Gordon, Sam Hornish, and Joe Nemechek going to the back of the field. Remember, we will have the double file restarts here this afternoon. Shootout style should make for some added excitement. Been some huge names going to victory lane here. Every driver on this track would like to join them today. There's Earnhardt Jr., Carl Edwards, on board with Joey Logano. See how these drivers fare this afternoon. We're getting ready to go. Mike Walls is our director. Barry Landis will produce. A crew of 210 in the truck, around the track, and here in the booth. Ron Skinner, Barb Hanford, Greg Newton, Russell Winwright, Maggie Darst, Ashley Washington, Charlize Youngtie, and Mr. Everything, Andy Jeffers. They're all on their toes, so you can relax and enjoy a Sunday afternoon. 400 miles here at Michigan. Hope you enjoy the ride. Want to let you know that the light that serves at the entrance of pit road is not functioning right now, so it will be flags only, signifying if pit road is open or closed. Out of turn 4, the fans on their feet. 43 cars coming to get the green flag at Michigan.
Wow, Jimmy Johnson jumps out, got a great start. He's down on the bottom already, trying to get the lead away.
Kyle Busch leads the first lap.
Wally mentioned the 48 card and the great start he has. I'm not sure the 83 took off.
No,
because the 48 was all over his bumper, and the outside line took off because you see the 18 up there.
And it also looked like he got a little bit loose in between 1 and 2. You know, low tire pressures, tires are cold.
And you saw Kyle Busch kick up some dust on the front stretch. One of the vehicles in the pre-race festivities dropped some oil on the track, so they had to put down some speedy dry before we went green. You might see a little bit of that left down there now.
Yeah, and that's always special when you set your car up and do everything right and they mess up the racetrack in pre-race.
They did a good job getting most of it cleaned off.
Johnson runs second, then Vickers. There's Kurt Busch in the Miller Lite Dodge, the 2-car. Boy, they got racy here early. Montoya behind Busch. It's Juan Pablo.
You know, when Juan first came to this racetrack, he kind of picked up on it really, really quick. But he run all over the racetrack. He run high, he run low, he run anywhere he wanted to. And you know, they've come up here this time with the Chevys compared to the Fords. They're pretty decent, man.
See Kurt there in the 2-car. He's really working that high line. He was the first car earliest as far as I was, you know, getting up there and trying to get some rubber work into that high groove.
And you'll be looking all day for the best groove for your car.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you know, sometimes you like running high, or you may like running down on the white line, but you have to go where the car wants to go, where it's free. And normally around the top of this racetrack, especially after you run the tires off a little bit, it's best to run the high line to keep that engine wound up and keep the car. It really comes off the corners well. So I think if you can get your car working on the high line, it's probably the place to be.
Yeah, and you saw that. The 2-car and the 41 car. The 41 car was always down on the bottom. He could pull up under him in the corner when they had fresh tires. Now that you see the tires go away after 3 or 4 laps, 4 or 5 laps, tire drop off, you see the 2 pulls away from him.
Got one report. They might be looking for smoke off the back of the 24 car, Jeff Gordon. And remember, they lost a motor in practice here on Friday, so they had to start at the rear of the field.
The only smoke so far off the back of the 24 is the guys he's smoking as he goes around him to the front.
32nd spot right now, Jeff Gordon.
That's Sam Hornish Jr. in that 77 car. Hornish also started at the back of the pack after an engine change.
You know, in the opening, we mentioned Allmendinger and AJ and John Andretti,
right,
and Bill Elliott. They're maintaining. They have not fallen back. They're maintaining in the first 5 or 6 laps of the race, and a lot of times that's indicative that they are on the race setup and they have come to race. They didn't just come to qualify.
Another guy on the move here so far, Greg Biffle. Gordon has gained 12 positions, Biffle 10. Saw Hornish, he's picked up 8 since the green flag. Another guy trying to move forward, Mark Martin, from the 32nd position. Let's get a report from pit road. How about the Biff, Matt?
Bill, Greg Biffle thought at the conclusion of final practice they're on a scale of 8.5 on a 1 to 10 as far as his happy scale. Not jumping up and down, he said, but they felt pretty confident about their package. The only issue, he said, he felt like it might be a little tight, and that's exactly early on the complaint that's coming from the cockpit. A little tight out of center.
Looking down low, it's Clint Boyer in the 33, the Childress Chevrolet. Boy, Biffle just loves this track. He's loved it ever since he started racing here back in the trucks in '98. There's your race leader, Kyle Busch in the 18. 9th race Kyle has led this season. He has led the most laps in 2009.
And you see that 48 working that high groove, and you can see how he closed the gap. He just picked up 4 car lengths on Kyle right there. So you obviously see the big 2 differences right now. Kyle's trying to work the low line, but watch the 48 as he runs high, especially off the corner. This is where you get ahead of steam and go.
This is for the lead. Johnson has it. About the 18, Marty.
Yeah, this is what Kyle Busch was worried about. Talked to him this morning. He told me the car is almost too good at the beginning of a run. They really felt like they lost time, Bill, on old tires at the end of the run. And as he predicted, he said about 10 laps into the run, that's when our car starts to fall off. As you see, Jimmy Johnson has now gone around for the lead. A little bit too loose for Kyle Busch right now. Lindsay?
Yeah, Marty, Jimmy Johnson right now being pretty quiet on the radio. They were worried in practice that their car has been really free. They were really battling with that. But Jimmy still looking for that first win here in Michigan. And when I talked to Chad Knaus earlier today, he said it's not that we have haven't had strong cars. It's just that we've had mechanical issues, fuel mileage problems, and we think we can get it done today.
We'll be watching. Jimmy Johnson leads in the Chevrolet. Chevrolet has only one win here in the last 15 races. Of course, that would have been Dale Earnhardt Jr. last year. 13 laps are complete here at Michigan for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. There's your race leader, Jimmy Johnson. Behind him, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Brian Vickers, and Casey Kane. There's Kane and Vickers. Kane in the 9, Vickers in the 83. Brian started from the pole. Kurt Busch has gotten around them. Let's get a check on the 18. Marty.
Bill Kyle Busch currently in second, trying to hang on to that. And he says he now has a vibration that he feels like is coming from the engine. Here's what he said on the radio.
When I get out of the gas, getting into the corner, I have a vibration that kicks in at 8,000 and stays with me. Off throttle, on throttle, all the way till I get to 9,000. It goes away.
And the engine gurus at Joe Gibbs Racing now on top of the pit box with Steve Addington trying to diagnose what might possibly be going on with this engine. Larry, Matt?
You know, Marty, whether you run a Chevrolet, a Toyota, Ford, or a Dodge, it doesn't matter. There's an RPM band that engines do not like. They have what we call harmonics. Now, I've never heard of that being the case basically in a 1,000 RPM window. I know that was a big concern when we went to the bigger restrictor plate at Daytona Talladega. It put it in the RPM band that the engine doesn't like. But that's an awfully big window. But if it's only doing it there, you would have to believe it's something to do with the harmonics of the engine.
So are you worried?
Absolutely, but because anytime you've got a vibration, especially this early in the race, Bill, and you're in the throttle so much here, and like I talked in the pre-race show, this place is hard on engines anyhow. No question, I'm sure they've got their heads together right now.
Hey, Larry, let me ask you one more thing. Could it be something beside the engine? Because he said it's not only off the gas, it's on the gas. You know, sometimes you have you've been in a wreck, you have a fender flapping, you have the skirt flapping, you have something hitting that sends the harmonics to a car at a certain speed or at a certain angle. Could it be something different than the engine?
Well, Kyle, I've even found where tailpipes against the frame or something like that, as the engine goes through a certain RPM band starting to build speed, can make the driver feel like he's got a vibration in the engine.
3 engine-related DNFs in each race here last year. We'll keep an eye on Kyle. There's his teammate in the 20, Joey Logano. And let's go back a few laps here and watch the 20 car.
20 comes off turn.
Yeah.
Oh, decides to stop by a Krispy Kreme and get a couple of donuts right there.
That's a good line.
Yeah, look at this. Boom.
It's David Stremme in the 12, Jamie McMurray in the 26. See the Goodyear's rubbed off the front of that, off the side of that left front tire. Joey Logano got the win last night in the Nationwide Series race.
And you see that fender. That fender's driven in on top of the tire. You could just barely see the shine of the tire. Even though the Goodyear's worn off of it, you can see the shine right when he dropped it down on it. So they'll have to watch that, and hopefully they'll get a caution and be able to pull it off.
Got an update on the 20 from Ralph.
Bill, he's been struggling to get that car up off the corner, and when you put it up in traffic like that, that makes the condition even worse, and that's all part of the issue for Joey Logano right now. And talking to crew chief Greg Zipadelli earlier today, he said, you know, when we come to a new racetrack Joey's never been to, we think we go where he's going, and then he starts searching around the racetrack, and it takes him a while to figure out where he's comfortable, and then we have to chase him with the setup of the race car. About halfway through the race is where they really start to feel comfortable with what Joey's going to be doing on the track.
Yeah, and that's fairly common for a young driver to go and find the groove early in the week and do whatever he wants to do, but constantly keep searching. And you look for it. He's having trouble just getting the car where he wants to go, and there's a one car all over him pushing him down the straightaway. You're not learning right there. You're just hanging on trying to get out of the way.
And this track will force you somewhere eventually, because this track, normally when you get a lot of rubber on this racetrack, it gets tighter, and you start sliding, and you run the high line. So, yeah, this is a big learning curve right now for him.
Saw Tony Stewart take the position from Brian Vickers. Jimmy Johnson has led 12 of the first 20 laps this afternoon here at Michigan. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you have a winning fuel strategy. Tony Raines and Joe Nemechek have gone to the garage. Max Pappas is 1 lap down. There are currently 40 cars scored on the lead lap. Let's look at today's UPS Maximum driver. Jimmy Johnson has led a lap in 13 of the 15 races this season. That includes today. And coming in, he had led 648 laps. This race season, look for David Reagan to take on the delivery drivers of UPS in Maximum driver. So Johnson is the leader. Then it's Kyle Busch, then Kurt Busch. That's back around 10th position. The 11 of Hamlin and the 00 of David Ruderman. Hamlin takes the position. Just to update you on some of these guys quickly, Jeff Gordon has picked up 26 positions after starting at the back of the field. Mark Martin came from 32nd. He's picked up 16. Greg Biffle up 13 positions. Carl Edwards has picked up 12. David Reagan plus 9. So a lot of the guys that Kyle talked about at the back of the field have really come marching through with just 25 laps complete. Johnson has led 17 of those 25 laps. Kyle Busch led for 8. And Johnson's lead is now 5.5 seconds. And there is Mark Martin, a popular pick to go to victory lane here this afternoon when you talk to the teams in the garage. And there you can see the progress he's made through the field. Let's check in with Matt Yopa.
And his spotter keeping Mark abreast of just what the competition is doing as far as where they're running on the racetrack. And Mark is actually in the high line for Mark Martin. Typically 1 to 1.5 lanes off the bottom is as high as he likes to go. A bottom dweller right now. He says really not a lot of grip. That's his biggest issue. Marty Snyder.
Well, Matt, when one of the cars fell to the back of the field, Carl Edwards started actually this race 27th. Where did he win from last August when he started at Michigan? 27th. Carl hoping to pull off the same feat today as Mark Martin goes around him. He's got a problem, though. When he runs the bottom of the racetrack, it's too tight. When he runs the top, it's too loose. So right now he's kind of running the middle, trying to find the ground that he would like to get to. They've made a lot of ground up so far earlier in this race, and only once in Carl's career has he not finished in the top 10 here at Michigan, Bill.
Thank you, Matt. Juan Pablo Montoya, Greg Biffle.
Yeah, Montoya looked really good in the last practice, and he's been pretty fast here all weekend. I think these guys are going to have a good day.
Looking to rebound from Pocono, although he did post a good finish at Pocono, he just really didn't have a very good race.
And that's depressing in a lot of ways.
For
because
who?
No, you leave, and for other people, you leave and you think, man, we had a good finish. We stole one right there. But you can't figure out why you run bad.
Lindsay Zarniak.
Bill, you know, it's interesting, and I want to add on what you guys are talking about. I talked to one Montoya's crew chief this morning, Brian Patty, and he said actually it was my inexperience that he thinks has hurt them here in the past. And he said that he came here and they tried all different things, and it's really made a difference for Montoya. Brian Patty said that they've really kind of hit on some communication together, because when you look at it, he's never finished on the lead lap here at Michigan. So obviously they've made some changes that are pretty successful for them here today.
Yeah, you're right, Lindsay. He's off to a good start. Can tell you that Sterling Marlin and Dave Blaney have taken their cars to the garage. Two more of the teams that we talked about on the countdown to green did not plan to run the entire race. On board with Reed Sorensen here. This is down the front stretch, coming to the start-finish line. You see the flag stand on the right.
See, everybody's single file right now, and just look how everybody just kind of fans out. There's just so much real estate here that you can race on, and see how smooth it is too. And that's why, you know, that helps being able to run all these different lines is a smooth racetrack.
Reed's in 32nd, looking at the rear bumper of Hornish. Up front, Johnson's increased his lead to almost 7 seconds over Kyle Busch. Sorensen trying to get that position from Hornish.
And, you know, this is a tough pass to make coming off the inside or on the bottom of a racetrack when you've got a guy up on the high side. It's really a hard pass to pull off.
Well, here's another one then. Kurt Busch in the 2, his brother Kyle in the 18.
And Kurt was all the way up next to that safety barrier right there. I mean, he got it hung out there and it powered up, man, but it was good. But Kurt's been running. You know, we talked to him the other day, and he was looking forward to running this race today. He was looking forward. He thought he had a good week last week. Nothing to show for it, but he was looking forward to this.
Broke a water pump. He'd never heard of it. His crew chief, Pat Trison, had never heard of it. Even Larry Mack says, I've never heard of anybody breaking a water pump. They broke one last week and made changes to it for this week. The Irish Hills of Michigan on a beautiful race weekend here at the Michigan International Speedway. NASCAR on TNT, 35 laps in to this 400-mile race at Michigan. Jimmy Johnson is the race leader. A couple of guys that started in the top 10. John Andretti has dropped to 26th from 10th, and A.J. Allmendinger from 6th to 19th. Here are some Coors Light cold hard facts. Only one driver has scored his first career win at Michigan. That was Dale Jarrett in August of 1991. And that was a fantastic race and an unbelievable finish. Who did Jarrett pass on the last lap? Really, at the basically coming out of 4 was Davey Allison. And who was Davey Allison's crew chief that day? Well, by gosh, it was Larry McReynolds. And I'm sure he's thrilled that we brought that up. Those are our Coors Light cold hard facts. We're closing in on pit stops. They're really not too far away. We're going to try and get a top 10 through the field here. We see some cars coming down pit road as we speak. But let's start with Jimmy Johnson and go through the field, Lindsay.
Bill, Jimmy Johnson and crew chief Chad Knaus planning on their first pit stop in about 4 laps from now. Jimmy just told Chad the exits are very consistent, but right now the center's just getting a little bit snug. Not tight, just snug. Bill?
They may come in early, Bill.
Yeah, they are. Robbie Gordon's been on pit road. Menard, Labonte, Matt.
Bill, significant chassis adjustment already completed for the 9. The Budweiser car of Casey Kane. His car way too free. Lindsay.
Matt, the 17 coming on in. Matt Kenseth had just said the car a little bit loose in the turns, also loose on the throttle. You see him making his way down pit road. They plan on making a track bar adjustment for Matt Kenseth, also air pressure. So far, so good, Matt.
And the 16 of Greg Biffle making his way down to his pit box to Greg Irwin and the guys. Biffle said his biggest complaint, lack of grip, especially in the back of the car. It's really tight. He tried changing his lines up. They were talking about a wedge adjustment. You can see that's already completed. Around to work on the left side. Air pressure change as well for the Biff. Let's go further up pit road to Marty.
Well, Matt, Carl Edwards very cognizant of the pit road speed. 4,700 in second gear. Got a few speeding penalties last night in the Nationwide Series race in Kentucky. He said he just absolutely has no grip out there. They make a wedge adjustment trying to get this car a little bit better for Edwards, who wants to run the top if he can, Ralph.
Waiting for the 2 of Kurt Busch to make his way down pit lane. He was struggling to get this car to turn early on. Then all of a sudden, she just woke up on him. And he went right to the front like a rocket ship. Was one of the fastest cars out there. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment to this car. And that's about it, Marty. They're very happy with the 2.
Kyle Busch lost second place at the very end of that run right there. He's a little bit loose in the middle of 3 and 4 and tight off of 3 and 4. Track bar adjustment, also an air pressure adjustment for Kyle Busch, Matt.
And Tony Stewart's team has already serviced his Chevrolet. Air pressure change for Stewart. In the back of the car, just needed more forward bite.
Thanks, Matt. We have been green since we started this race. 40 laps are complete, cycling through green flag pit stops right now. Jimmy Johnson is the race leader. Johnson, Vickers. Well, Vickers on pit road now. Jimmy has yet to stop. Vickers all the way down toward pit exit, Marty.
And Bill just file it away, obviously getting very good fuel mileage for Brian Vickers. Ryan Pimda told me this morning that would be the case for this team. Extremely loose. He said when he gets to the gas, back end wants to spin out, down 1 round on the track bar. Also an air pressure adjustment, Lindsay.
Jimmy Johnson is in his pit stall. The guys have gone around to the car. They're going to give him 4 tires and fuel. Jimmy also saying he has now lost overall grip, Marty.
Jeff Gordon in here has gained a ton of spots since the beginning of this race, already leaving pit road. This is where they think they can gain a lot of time today. Gordon tight in 3, loose off 4. So they made an air pressure and a wedge adjustment trying to fix them up.
As we talked about, Gordon had gained 24 positions
under green since we started. Jimmy Johnson comes off of pit road. He will resume his position as the race leader. He has led 33 laps. Kyle Busch has led 8. 41 laps are complete. You look at Kasey Kahne. Runs in the second spot. There's Jimmy. So he's out front. He'll come around, run through the scoring loop, and see what his lead is over Kasey Kahne. It's Johnson, Kahne, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, and Greg Biffle still under green here at Michigan. Working lap 46 of 200 at Michigan International Speedway for the Sprint Cup Series. Jimmy Johnson is the race leader. We've cycled through green flag stops. Jimmy never lost his lead. His lead was 6.8 seconds before the pit stop started. Now it's 4.5 seconds over Kasey Kahne. NASCAR fans, let's look at this week's standings for the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award. Fans, don't forget to cast your vote for the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year. You can do it from your AT&T phone. Text in the car number for the pit crew you think is the fastest and most valuable on each race to 2258. The AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. Kyle Busch looking forward at Greg Biffle.
You know, this is interesting. We heard Kyle Busch talk earlier about having a vibration between 8 and 9, but he's really maintained. He's not lost anything. You know, the 48 car passed him early in the race, and these cars passed him until the 16 car just passed him there on the racetrack. The only other car that's really passed him on the racetrack has been the 2 cars, so he's really didn't lose anything from the vibration. So it's interesting to see, wonder how this plays out, or if they've got a handle on it, or after the pit stops, if that vibration went away.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, to see if maybe it was a wheel and it threw a weight or something like that, you know, in the first few laps.
Now, another thing we were watching was that Kasey Kahne picked up some time on the track because he pitted earlier and had the fresher tires. He's now 5.2 seconds behind Johnson. Then it's Biffle, then Kyle Busch in 4th, down to Marty.
Yeah, guys, he hasn't really mentioned that vibration, talking about Kyle Busch, since the one time he mentioned it early on. Chassis-wise, felt like the car was pretty good. Again, they felt like they gave up too much towards the end of the run. Tell you what, a lot of crew chiefs looking to the skies right now because it's starting to cloud up, and that certainly will affect the racetrack a little bit as well.
Well, and especially since, Marty, I mean, there's a lot of cars right now that are talking about no grip and no side bite. And if that sun comes out, that ain't going to help the grip at all.
Yeah, and no side bite is a funny term that you only hear race car drivers use. What is side bite? You know, you're sitting at a stoplight and you leave and you go forward. You feel your car move forward. That's bite. That's when they say they have no grip. That would be like you just get in the gas and spin the rear tires. That's no grip, and that's what these guys feel as they leave coming up out of the corner. They feel that little, as the rear of the car squats and they move forward.
It'd be like if you turned right at that light
exactly.
and just spun out.
And you spun out. That's no side bite.
Right.
Because when you turn and the car rolls that way, that's side bite. You want a little bit of a cushion on that right rear. And some of these guys are saying, I've got no forward grip, but I've got no side bite either, which really scares them getting in the corner.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you get in the corner, you carry so much speed here at this racetrack. You go diving down in the corner, and the car, here's where that side bite's holding you in the racetrack, right here. The car's gripping right here, and that's where you want the side bite. See the 9 car? See how that thing is floating through the corner and the rear of the car is kind of dancing around? He doesn't have a whole lot of side bite.
Yeah, that's not, he's losing side bite and forward bite all at the same time, and this is where he gives it up. See how he goes in the corner and he's up at the top? He's afraid to get off in that corner because he knows he's got nothing to lean on over there.
Biffle to 2nd place around Kasey Kahne. Matt on Kasey Kahne.
And Bill, he's been running the Richard Petty line right up by the wall much of this event. Now his biggest issue, you touched on it, lack of grip. They made an air pressure change on the last stop to try to help that. And Kasey says that it did help on the beginning of the run. The front side of the run, his car much better, but it'll be a work in progress. The next stop already looking ahead. What change they'll make next to get this car better and better.
And you almost, Matt, you almost have to be 2 steps ahead, because if your car doesn't have it now and that sun comes out, you need to make sure that you make a big enough adjustment on that car to make up for when this track gets hot.
I just want to point out, on June 14th, 1998, this race went 118 laps before the first caution flag came out. And they have had a caution. What year? 1998. Here's David Rudiman.
Let's say I remember that.
He runs in the 14th position, and he was talking to his crew about how his car is handling.
Evil loose on entry, too. Evil loose. I can't run the top. Jumps out on me getting in. Stuck to the center. Quick as I go to the gas and try to get off with it. Just loose. No side bite at all. Simple. We'll just work on the back, trying to make the back better. Hey, you got to do something to get the back in the racetrack big time, bud. But it's hung out at a 45-degree angle all the way to the center of the corner as it is right now.
And guys, just for way of review, let's review David Rudiman's weekend. First lap on the track Friday in practice, he scraped the wall because the car bottomed out so bad. Then he went out and qualified 4th. Then yesterday in practice, the car back downhill was not very good. Kyle and Wally, I'm sure you've had one of those weekends where highs and lows all weekend. Right now, Rudiman in one of those ruts. Not very happy with that race car, as you can tell.
And actually, Kyle touched on it. You can run the high line because you don't want to turn the wheel. He's so loose, you can't even run the high line. He needs to run the middle, so he's got all that real estate, because he's gonna take up the whole racetrack, and it's really, really bad at a track like this if you're loose in.
Yeah, and I like this comment. I'm at a 45-degree angle all the way through the corner. Well, let me tell you something. The corner at Michigan is from turn 3 back over to turn 2, because you never really run straight at this racetrack except right in the middle of the backstretch.
Now, when Kurt Busch pitted, we saw the damage to the right side of his car, so he's already contacted the wall, or at least brushed it one time, and he has been running that high groove all day since the green flag. See Tony Stewart's on board looking back at Kurt, that Miller Lite Dodge. Meanwhile, up front, it has been Jimmy Johnson. He has led 46 of the 54 laps, and he is 7 seconds ahead of Greg Biffle. And we welcome you back to the Jimmy Johnson Show here at the Michigan International Speedway. 58 laps are complete. Jimmy's led 50 of them, and he's 7.2 seconds ahead of second place Greg Biffle. Here's today's LifeLock trivia question. Who was the oldest driver ever to win a NASCAR Sprint Cup race?
I know this, so I'm not going to answer it.
That's how you did it in school, isn't it?
That's a good point. Who's the oldest driver ever to win a NASCAR Sprint Cup race?
Harry Gant.
That's right. Harry Gant, 52 years, 7 months, 6 days. He did it right here in 1992.
Mark Martin may blow that record all to pieces at some point.
He could. Yeah. He could. And there'd be nobody more happier for him than Harry Gant.
Yeah.
This is a gratuitous Kyle Petty shot here. This is Bobby Labonte, 3 wins here, 4 pole positions. Bobby just got knocked off the lead lap. He scored in the 32nd position.
But wait a minute. Bobby has just become a new uncle, okay? Christy Labonte, Terry's daughter. So now that makes Terry a grandfather, right? Terry Labonte.
Yes, I'm glad.
Talking about the oldest driver.
That's not how he explained it to you, though, is it?
Terry Labonte's a grandfather now. So Terry and Kim are grandparents, but Christy had a little boy named Asher. Matt and Christy, they live in Texas, and I think Terry and Bobby and the whole family is all excited for Christy.
And we congratulate the entire Labonte family. Now we'll try and do it again. Through the field, ladies first. Here's Lindsay.
Thanks, Bill. As part of that Jimmy Johnson show that you talked about, Johnson obviously would love to take home the trophy today, but he just got on the radio, said the car's a little bit free into one. Front of the car is positive. He said we've got to adjust the back of the car to the track a little bit more. Matt?
The fastest Ford belongs to Greg Biffle, the 16. Currently runs second. The car, he says, is a little bit on the free side. He and Greg Irwin were hoping that the sun would come out. As the progression continues throughout the whole weekend, the track getting hotter and hotter. They're hoping for a slick track. Meanwhile, the 9 of Casey Kane. This was a great stretch for him last year. Kane hoping for another win here at MIS. He says the back of the car still not into the racetrack. Looking for another chassis adjustment on the next stop. Meanwhile, Tony Stewart. He has scored 429 more points this year than he did 1 year ago heading into the 15th race of the year. Stewart's biggest complaint earlier, no grip. Air pressure change in the last stop. No comment since. He runs 4th. Ralph?
Matt, Kurt Busch just said on the radio, same thing every week. As the track gets more and more tight, we get more and more tight as well. And it's a problem that he's having to deal with, but he's doing a good job with it. He's got that car running up in the 5th position right now, still sitting in the top 5 right where he started, Lindsay.
Ralph, it's funny because Juan Pablo Montoya, he'll tell you he is never satisfied with this car, but he's got to be pretty happy right now running 6th. After all, than 25th at this track. But right now they continue to tell him the car is very, very good, dude, Marty.
Lindsay, earlier this week, Kyle Busch told me, I've never figured out Michigan like I have California. I like to race California a little bit better. For some reason, Michigan, just not my best racetrack right now. Kyle going the wrong direction as well. Currently, he's in the 7th position. His car extremely loose. He said, guys, you know what? We fixed the exit, but now I'm too loose off the exits. We made it a little bit better. Need to go a little further, Ralph.
Even with the clouds coming over the racetrack, Marty, and the track getting tighter, Boyer is still dealing with a very loose race car. It's something he's had to deal with ever since this race got underway. They made a lot of air pressure adjustments, still hasn't dialed it around, but he is running one spot better than where he started. He currently sits in 8th. Marty?
Ralph Denny Hamlin just took the 9th position away a moment ago. His car very, very loose on that last run. They made an air pressure and a wedge adjustment trying to get him better. And the car, as you see Denny running that very, very high line, is better on this run. This is the latest and greatest Joe Gibbs Racing chassis. Lightest chassis they've ever built. The team very excited about this car, Lindsay.
Marty, the 17, a little bit concerned about their car. In fact, they had considered bringing it in because Matt thought that the left front might be going down. Obviously, that's not the case, but he'll tell you the car very, very loose on entry. Matt does not know, in fact, what they did to the car on that last stop to make it feel that way. Right behind him, a very different story, David Reagan, who is running basically the race of his life here at Michigan. Reagan has really, really struggled this season. I talked to his crew chief, Jim Infegin, in the garage this morning, who said he is trying to keep this team very positive, very motivated, and right now, David's getting the job done, Larry.
Yeah, Lindsay, I've been watching Mark Martin in this 5 car. Remember, he started back in the 32nd position, but he was so happy with his car yesterday that they quit practice early. But I think Mark Martin, like about 30 or 40 other drivers, to get caught up to his teammate Jimmy Johnson, they're going to need a caution because right now he's 22 seconds behind his teammate.
That's a good point, Larry. Mark Martin runs in the 13th position. Then it's Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon, David Rudiman. Let's see, Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 18th position, then Robbie Gordon and Kevin Harvick. The rest of the cars on the lead lap: Sadler, Newman, McMurray, and Sorensen. Only 24 cars on the lead lap. Jeff Burton is the first car, 1 lap down. We dropped the green. We've stayed green for the first 66 laps. Jimmy Johnson is the leader by 7.7 seconds over Biffle.
So new Fuel Max tires help you save 2,600 miles worth of gas.
That's right.
Imagine if this race was 2,600 miles long.
We need a whole lot more popcorn.
Or if you're in the booth, French fries.
Or if you're in the booth, French fries. That's exactly right.
Well, log on to NASCAR.com now and watch up to 4 live camera angles at once with the TNT Race Buddy Mosaic View, the TNT Race Buddy. He's at NASCAR.com. And we have an Ask the Booth question. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm leaving the booth right now.
It's from Jay. The question is, will the double file restart rule apply at Sonoma next week?
Yes, it will. And I think that's going to be pretty exciting. I think at 2 places I'm looking forward to the most on the double file shotgun restarts, what is it called?
That's close enough. That was close enough, for you, man. I loved it.
But is Sonoma and Daytona. I mean, Daytona, that race is going to be spectacular as well.
Caution
what's
is
going
out.
on.
Put the brake. Caution's out. Put the brake.
Speaking of double file
and now we're going to get one.
And let's see what strategy plays out here. And these teams were getting very close to green flag stops. Debris in turn 3. 72 laps are complete. This is our first caution of the race. The lucky dog is Ryan Newman.
And I'll tell you what, when it goes green here like it did, it's bad news for a lot of these guys because there's a lot of guys that are lapped down now because you get Jimmy Johnson gets hooked up and some of those guys are struggling a little bit. And I mean, there's, I don't know what, 10 or more cars right now, 1 lap down.
Let's check in with Larry McReynolds.
Bill, the car I've been watching is that 6 car of David Reagan. He qualified back in the 23rd position. A little bit of a change with that team this week. Now, Jimmy Finning, the crew chief, he's still here. He's calling the race, but they decided to let engineer Chris Andrews worked with David Reagan on the setup of this car. Just felt like they needed to try something because remember, he's not had a top 10 finish since the Daytona 500 back in February. So far, science project working pretty good.
And he was very optimistic yesterday morning in the garage area. Big smile on his face. Said he really felt they were getting back to where they were in some of those good races they ran last year. See how it all plays out. Not even a halfway yet. There are 22 cars on the lead lap. Ryan Newman will be the 23rd car when he comes around as the lucky dog. Pit road should be open this time. It's Jimmy Johnson, then Biffle, Kane, Stewart, and Montoya, Kyle Busch, Boyer, Hamlin, Kurt Busch, and David Reagan. The field moves through turns 3 and 4. Johnson will hit first. Let's take you on down there a little early to Lindsay.
Thank you very much, Bill. Jimmy Johnson came on the radio, said, you know what, guys, it's really, really hard to even complain at all about this car. But what they've decided to do is try to free him up just a little bit. You heard him talk before about getting a little bit snug. Jimmy Johnson's going to come in. His team is going to give him 4 tires. They're going to drop the panel bar down a half a round and get him off the pit road. Matt?
Greg Biffle, the 16 car, hits pit road, slides, locks up those front wheels, getting into his pit box, spotlighting the rear carrier. His name says Kevin McDowell in the uniform, but it's really Garrett Reddy. McDowell's off with his wife Ashley having their baby. Chassis adjustment, air pressure change, trying to tighten up his 16 car, Ralph.
4 tires and fuel, and they're going down 1.5 rounds on the right rear. They're still trying to loosen up Kurt Busch. He's not a big fan of a tight race car, and that's what he's dealing with, Marty.
Ralph, Kyle Busch had this car extremely loose, especially on exit. They did 1 round down on the track bar and a lot of traffic there on pit road. Tight race off pit road, Bill.
Boy, you're not kidding. You see Vickers had that number 1 stall. He creeps out as well. David Reagan picks up 5 spots. Look at Tony Stewart losing 6 spots. We'll find out what happened to those 2 guys. Reset the field, go back to green. This is NASCAR on TNT. Our TNT race family spending the weekend on the lake at Michigan and some time here at the track as well. 75 laps are complete. Jimmy Johnson is the race leader, and NASCAR thanks all the fans that are attending today and you watching on television as well. Everybody has been to pit road except Michael Waltrip, and he is the lone wave around car.
So now, unlike Pocono, and we talked about this last weekend, you can come in, get your pit stop, and come back out without getting lapped.
At Pocono.
At Pocono. Right. Here, you're not going to be able to do that. So it's a gamble. I mean,
it's going to. The interesting part here is, does he change 2? Does he change 4? Is it a gas and go? What does he do? Because
he has
this
to gamble.
He's the gamble,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a test. A lot of people's going to go to school on Michael Waltrip right here.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony Stewart's pit stop. He currently runs in the 10th position. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. And here he comes down pit road, and listen.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Watch the front right tire changer.
That's only a couple of seconds. It's only maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds at the most that he got hung up on that right front, but that's 5 spots, you know, on the pit.
And we heard Tony on the audio while we were in commercial say nice recovery. So he was actually watching the tire changer when he went over there.
And it's always nice when the boss man says, nice recovery, you know what I mean? And that keeps his team pumped up. I mean, they're coming off a win last week. They need to stay pumped up. You know, don't need to get down over a pit stop this early in the race.
Double file restart. 24 cars are scored on the lead lap, including Michael Waltrip, who was at the tail end of the field. Jimmy Johnson chose the outside line, leader's choice, on the restart. Double file restart, shootout style, all the lead lap cars up front. No passing till you cross, start, finish, and then they fan out.
That's like you showed earlier, Wally. They're 4 and 5 wide back.
Yeah.
8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Look at them right there.
And that's fun. I mean, it's fun to do when you're driving at this racetrack and you've got good rubber on. And you can do that. I mean, it is a blast.
And it's fun to do because it's 4 or 5 wide and they're all for positions. It's not like it used to be when it was 4 or 5 wide and you're like, what are those lap cars doing down there 3 wide under me? I don't want them under me.
Oh, I thought you were going down a bad road.
I did not go down a bad road.
Mr. McReynolds?
Here, I think this is the betting window that Michael Waltrip and Booty Barker are standing in. I think their hopes and they're betting on the fact this double file restart shootout style is going to breed another caution, because remember, they have to come to pit road here shortly because they have not pitted since lap 38. They're very close on fuel with that 55 car.
And I think Larry is with me on we need to come up with a shorter name for this thing.
See those people on the other side of the glass right here, Wally? You want to go talk to them about that?
Shootout style, okay, guys? Great. That's where it is from now on.
Perfect name. Perfect name.
We also showed you that David Reagan lost a few spots on pit road, and now he's lost a few on the track. Took 4 tires and fuel. Kind of got pinched in some traffic getting off of pit road, and that could be where he lost those spots. Reagan runs in the 11th spot.
We're watching the 2-car Kurt Busch here. We had the opportunity early in the week to sit down with Kurt and talk to him. And Kurt made a couple of interesting comments that he hates a tight race car.
Right.
Hates a tight race car. And I mean, he was adamant about it. And then we heard Ralph, who did a great job on the pit whip, say, Kurt says his car's getting tight, continuing getting tighter, and the racetrack's going to get tight, and they got to do something about it. So it's going to be interesting to see if they made a major adjustment under this, because just as Wally said earlier, you got to count on the racetrack continuing to change.
And just about 3 or 4 cars behind that, you'll see the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's picked up 5 positions from the restart.
That was
David
almost what
Reagan, 6 car. Yeah, that was big. He was pointed at the infield there for a second.
Almost what Michael Waltrip needed.
Yeah. And I don't know if he got help on that, and I caught it just as he shot out of line there. But normally on a deal like that, you've got somebody on your bumper.
See if it'll come to me.
Let's take a look.
It's going to be behind this.
No, he just got loose.
Oh.
Way loose.
Wow. That's tank slapping.
Man, that is good save.
Kenseth in the 17 on board with Tony Stewart.
I got to give Kenseth's son Ross a shout out. He ran at IRP last night and finished 5th down there in the division he runs, which is pretty cool. Matt flew down and spent the night with him, so shout out to Ross on that one.
Stewart picks up the position from Matt. Kenseth runs in the 7th spot. Michael Waltrip last pitted on lap 38. We're working lap 82. On board with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Looking back at Kyle Busch. Here comes Carl Edwards.
And Kyle, both of them. Kyle working that high line. Boy, look at the run you get off there.
It's like you just run downhill. It almost looks like it is so dramatic. He goes from the outside to the inside in the middle of the straightaway, because you just get that power run. But here he is on the bottom.
Yeah, this is where you got to be able to get off the corner and slide in front of the guy.
Mark Martin has joined this as well in the 5 car. Kyle Busch is 8th. Earnhardt Jr. is 9th. Then we check in with Ralph Shaheen.
Well, that 88 car, Bill, remember I told you at the beginning of the race, they built a lot of adjustment into the car because Crew Chief Lance McGrew was just not happy with where they were on the charts, although Dale Jr. was very comfortable with the car. They keep working on it, They've been dealing with a loose adjustment. The last adjustment they made was on the track car, and that seems to be getting them a little bit closer. And as you can see, they're moving up the charts once again. Now they're sitting there running in 9th. Best they've been all day so far.
He's got, looks like a skirt or something there hanging off the right side, right behind the door. Those skirts right there along the bottom of those cars are very important on how these cars handle. And it looks like right behind possibly where they put the jack, Kyle, the thing is flying out there.
Yeah, and that could come from a couple of things. The jack going up under the car, and as you drop the car and pull the jack out, you see the skirt. Or where this is at, this is all the way, that's right there at the tailpipe. That's where the tailpipe comes out. So it's almost like the tailpipe has burnt, the pop rivets have burnt something through and it's beginning to come out a little bit.
This is a replay from a lap ago.
But and I think they're still really important. Those skirts, I mean, they actually help suck the car down to the racetrack. It almost creates a vacuum, and when you lose part of that skirt, you lose part of that vacuum.
You lose part of that downforce. These are critical to the aero of the car, and probably more so to this car than the old car that we used to run. A lot of times at Daytona and Talladega, you would change your skirts, move things around for drag and for different issues like that. So this is an important part of it. We keep talking about. That's Junior talking about getting his rhythm back. We keep talking about side bite and forward bite. When you lose that downforce and you lose some of that, then it changes the side force and side bite, and it changes the forward bite and the forward grip. And when he's changing his aero package right here in the middle of the run because something's blowing off the car, it totally changes.
And he doesn't know it. Right now, he's probably lost a handle on his car. That's why he said, I need to get my rhythm back. Well, what he doesn't probably know sitting in that car right now is he's just lost some of the downforce on that car. It ain't going to come back right away.
That's when you start screaming at the crew chief, what did y'all change on this car? What did you change? And they didn't change anything. It's just the nature of what's happening right now.
NASCAR has asked the 88 team to clean that up on the side of that car on their next pit stop.
And Junior just told NASCAR 10-4. We'll clean that up.
Dave Blaney, Sterling Marlin, Joe Nemechek, Tony Raines officially out of the race. 4 cars out of the race.
4, man. Looking real good here. Just keep digging there. You're better than that 33. He's got a big hole behind him for the 24. Nice and smooth.
Junior's onboard radio. In front of him, Mark Martin in that 5 car. Martin has moved up 21 positions since the start of the race. How about it, Matt?
Bill, a huge gain from starting back in 32nd. The first run, Mark didn't make any change. The second run, he felt like he'd used up that right rear tire. And you know, Wally and KP, I know a number of times over the years, you guys have complained to your crew chief. I'm telling you, I hear a noise in the race car. Well, that's what Mark Martin told Alan Gustafson.
And the steering gets hard. It gets hard, and I can hear it squeaking. There's a problem with this car, this Charlotte car, isn't it? Yeah, 10-4 Charlotte car.
Mark saying when he turns the wheel, it makes a squeaky noise. Right now, though, they made a chassis adjustment on the last stop. Still a tick on the free side as he heads back down to the bottom.
And you know, a lot of times a driver will ask a question like that, where did we run this car last? Because in his mind, he can't figure out what's going on in the car. And if it's a new car, then it's a totally new set of circumstances to you. But if you've run it before and you're familiar with it, it's like, oh yeah, I remember this car did this at Charlotte, and I forgot to tell you. Or I remember this car had that problem before. So a lot of times that's why a driver will go back and say, where did we run this?
I can tell you Michael Waltrip's hopes ran out. He had to pit on lap 84. He's currently scored 32nd, 1 lap down. Jimmy Johnson is the leader by 2 seconds at Michigan. All kinds of good stuff. Get this and more with NASCAR.com's Race View now for half the price. Check it out at NASCAR.com/raceview. We're here at Michigan.
That was cool.
94 laps complete. Jimmy Johnson continues to lead.
Yeah, but, you know, there's some guys catching up a little bit, I think, making adjustments, and now they're running just as fast or pretty close to the 48 car. Biffle being one of them. Edwards is another one.
Yep.
Yeah. I've been looking at, you know, following the times every lap, and there's 2 or 3 guys right now that are right there with Johnson. If they can get the track position, it's going to get good.
And that's kind of the way the race was at Pocono last week. Johnson could jump out front, but you give it halfway through a stop or towards the end of the stop. Here come those Roush guys. Here come the 16 of Biffle. Here come the 99 of Carl Edwards. So when you looked at it, they were better for the long run. But that 48 and Jimmy Johnson and Chad, they're just hard to beat. If you get it, you want to do a 15-20 lap shootout, they're your guys right now, man, because they kill you for 14 or 15, 20 laps.
We're getting close to pit stops. Let's check on a couple of these guys. Matt, you got the Biff?
Bill, the Biff currently runs in the 2nd position. He's about 3 seconds back of leader Jimmy Johnson. Biffle feels like they're about 1 adjustment away from being as good or better than Jimmy Johnson. He's still a little bit on the free side, and about 4 laps ago, something they've been hoping for a while finally took place. The sun came out.
Very good. So Biffle runs 2nd. Montoya's in 3rd. Lindsay, you're watching him, right?
Yeah, I am, Bill, and he's saying right now he wants a little bit more forward bite in this car, but it's interesting too because he's obviously been running up front all day long, and I talked to him just before this race. He told me the million-dollar question is going to be what happens when the sun comes out like this. How much is it going to change the track? What do you guys think?
Boy.
His car looks good right now. I mean, you know, watching him go through the corners, I mean, he looks like he's got a good car, and he's looked like I said earlier, it looked that way all weekend.
Yeah, and this is a great team. Think about how bad they looked last week to how good they look this week.
Yeah.
In 7 days, these guys have turned the program around to being, and also ran there, to being a factor right here.
Ralph, I know you got your hands full. What's the latest on Earnhardt Jr.?
Well, it's just kind of interesting. He was talking about the safer barrier over in turn 2, and Wally and Kyle, you guys have put in a lot of laps here. He was talking about how before the safer barrier was there, when you could get all the way up around the edge of the racetrack over there, the track would change as you came off of turn 2 and could actually use that to your advantage. And now with that safer barrier sticking out, what is that, about 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet? It has taken that line away.
And that's at a lot of racetracks. And probably all the racetracks that they put the safer barrier.
Yeah, almost everywhere where they put the safer barrier, it comes out, and it's hard to blend it back in without taking the racetrack away. But let me tell you something. I'll give you that racetrack every day of the week to have that safer barrier. And Junior will, too. All he's saying is, it was a place I used to run, and now I can't run there.
And Carl Edwards has gained 20 positions since the start of the race. Marty, what's the latest?
And since this run, Bill, he's gained several positions as well. Keep an eye on this 99 car. Listen to the changes on the last stop. Down on the track bar, half-pound out of the right rear tire, and 1 round of wedge in the left rear, all to fix a very loose race car. Carl said at the beginning of this run, I can tell already, guys, much better. Extremely happy. He's one of those guys moving toward the front. Off turn 2, here was his quote, "It's perfect. Don't touch anything there."
Love it when the driver says perfect. When that man gets to the line, we'll be halfway here at Michigan, and then we're going to go through pit stops, see if they come under green or if the caution comes out. You're watching the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series from Michigan on TNT. Moments that changed the game, brought to you by Viagra. Martinsville Speedway on a scorching day in 1998. Ricky Rudd overcomes high temperatures and a faulty cooling system, suffering burns over parts of his body to win the race. He was the last owner-driver to win a Sprint Cup race until Tony Stewart won last week at Pocono. They ran out of ice bags that day, and they took Linda Rudd's makeup kit and put ice in that, dumped it out and put ice in that, as I recall, and fed it to Ricky through the window.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I want you, if you see that footage of a guy like that, that guy drove all day long and was that exhausted at the end of the day to do that. You don't see that much anymore because of the technology and the cool suits and the water systems that they have and the things, the hydration systems they have are so much better.
Here's a story that's been developing. It's driver Denny Hamlin and it's reporter Marty Snyder.
Yeah, guys, Denny Hamlin was extremely loose on the run before this one. Wanted to run the high line, and he couldn't get up there. So Mike Ford decided to make some sweeping changes, added a spring rubber to the left rear spring, a pound of air to the left rear tire, and that has made this 11 car come to life. Mike told me this morning, I'm tired of winning practice. I want to see something in the race. Expect us to be very aggressive with our changes. Second stop of the day. That's what they did, and it really helped out this 11 car.
And that's interesting because I just had somebody Twitter me on why after a green stop do people that are already loose continue to get looser. And the answer is under a green stop you can't make major changes like that. You heard all the things that Mike Ford, but as you see the car coming off the corner, obviously they don't have it perfect yet. But
you think?
But at the same time, you just heard him talk about all the changes they made to that 11 car. They can do that under caution. You do that under green, you're going to go a lap down.
That's 9th place. Check that. That's not for 9th place. That's better than that. Kurt Busch is 6th and Carl is 7th. Busch in that Miller Lite Dodge and the LifeLock Ford for Carl Edwards.
This is the part I always like when the guys get to the corner and one goes high and one goes low and you think that guy's just going to drive by him, you know what I mean? And it takes that outside. You see the two car comes off. He can't get as good a forward bite right now, but he gives him a little room.
Yeah, I think he probably gave him a little break there.
Here's a field summary brought to you by Burger King. Jimmy Johnson has led 98 laps So a virtual lock to lead the most laps here this afternoon. 4 cars are out of the race. And right now there are 23 cars scored on the lead lap. It's our Burger King field summary. Now, just so you know, the leader of the most laps at Michigan has won 4 of the last 5. The last guy that didn't do it, Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Wow. And this is what's happened to the one car. I have a couple people ask what's going on with the one car. He's gotten in a wall at some point in time, and NASCAR has black flagged him because the back of the car is flapping around, and you see him putting it on. Marty?
Yeah, Kyle, he's hit the wall, and this is actually the second stop. As you said, NASCAR black flagged him this time to fix the paneling behind the right rear tire. Martin obviously a little frustrated. They had a very good car yesterday in practice. A little scrape with the wall here, though, losing a lot of time on pit road.
Yeah, it's already, what, 4 laps down.
There's Johnson going by. Earnhardt Jr. in the 88. Jeff Gordon in the 24. Earnhardt is 10th. Gordon is 11th. And Earnhardt Jr. has gained 20 positions since the start of the race. Didn't have the good qualifying run. Started in the 30th spot. Earnhardt's car's been. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's another situation where Earnhardt could see that Jeff was a little bit quicker, so he cut him some slack, just like I think Kurt Busch did.
Larry, you were keeping a close eye on that 11 car, weren't you?
Yeah, I was real curious until Marty gave the report why they lost 8 positions on that last stop. But what they did when they pulled the left rear tire off, they took the spring rubber. It's about a half of a piece of black rubber. And all that tire changer did when he had the tire off, he just shoved it in the spring like that. It doesn't take that long, but when the competition is good as it is on pit road, that equates to losing 8 positions. But what that will do, Bill, it stiffens its left rear spring. That way when Denny picks the throttle up off the corner, it helps keep wedge in the car where it's not so loose and he can stay in the throttle.
It's pretty toasty under there too, isn't it, Larry?
Yes, it is. It's hot and people screaming and everything else is going on.
There's Denny Hamlin battling with Kurt Busch for a position. He takes it, and that's 7th. I can tell you that A.J. Allmendinger has gone to the garage with right side damage.
And we saw him get into the wall a couple of times early in the race before the groove was really worked in. He was up there trying to run it in and just knocked the wall. And a lot of times it doesn't do any damage, but you do it repeatedly. Eventually you knock that rear end out of line and it's over to the left. And then you want to talk about a bad driving race car.
Lap is 1:11, 89 to go.
Somebody out there is asking, when's this thing going to be over?
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
not a good sign.
That's not a good sign.
Asking what lap it is.
Carl Edwards, Casey Kane. Boy, everybody's still chasing Jimmy Johnson. He has led 103 laps, and pit stops should be coming up when we come back. Green flag pit stops have just begun. Matt Yoakum.
The bit felt like he was one adjustment away from having the race car that he needed. He said it was tight off turn 2, lacking a little bit off turn 4 as well. Air pressure change for the 16, Lindsay.
Thanks, Matt. Juan Pablo Montoya hasn't been saying much. That's because his car's been really good all day, which is great news for this team who has struggled so much at this track. Montoya brought his car in, 4 tires and fuel, Ralph.
The 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. is good through 1 and 2. Snaps loose off the 4. Still a little too snug to make him happy. They're going to take a look at that right side on that side skirt and the exhaust as well, Marty. They're going to make an adjustment, put 4 tires of fuel on it.
Ralph, Kyle Busch extremely loose off the corners. They're going to go 2 rounds of wedge in the left rear, trying to get this car tight. He said, I just cannot get back to the gas like I would like. Matt?
Tony Stewart, his bit box is 71, is pitting right in front. Stewart says the car not bad. Jeff Gooch Patterson from Escondido, California, already made the wedge adjustment, gets the second can of fuel. Meanwhile, Mark Martin, he said he didn't want any adjustments on this set of pit stops because the car had gone to the neutral side. He wasn't too upset about the handling of the race car. He's away, Marty.
Matt, those changes we talked about for Denny Hamlin made the car better. He said it was still a little bit loose at the end of the run. A little bit of wedge out, trying to tighten it up. Lindsay?
Thanks, Matt. The 48 team led by Ken Porcel, the Jack Man. They're all working on the car hard, giving it 4 tires, fuel. Jimmy is gone and away. Marty.
You should have heard the conversation between Carl Edwards and crew chief Bob Osborne as Carl diagnosed what he thought was going on with the car. Almost 2 entire laps trying to explain exactly what was going on with the race car. He said it's good. We need a little bit more. Car still too loose on exit. They're going to make a wedge, also a track bar adjustment, trying to tighten it up just a little bit. They can't make sweeping changes. Obviously the car very fast, but they do know they need to get a little bit better. And a fresh bottle of water for Carl. Quick stop for the 99 bunch.
Can also tell you Matt Kenseth and Casey Kane were among the first on and off of pit road. Kenseth currently scored 12th. Casey Kane in the 4th position. It cycles around back to Jimmy Johnson as the race leader. Carl Edwards did lead a lap, so 5 bonus points for the 99 team. So it shakes out Johnson, Biffle, Montoya, Kane, and Stewart in the top 5. Then Hamlin, Kurt Busch, Edwards, Mark Martin in 9th, Jeff Gordon from 43rd to the top 10. 81 to go at Michigan. We're under caution for debris here at the Michigan International Speedway. Pit road is open.
Truex and
Wow.
Casey.
Some of the guys that just pitted a few laps ago. Casey Kane's back, Matt.
Bill's still a work in progress for Casey Kane. They were going back and forth whether to go 2 or 4 here. You can see they're making the chassis adjustment. Once again, they do go for 4. Kane's car's still loose pretty much the last 2 runs.
They're trying to get that, what we talked about. They're trying to make these adjustments, and now's the time because they're running out of time to make adjustments.
Marty.
Bill, this was the driver's call. Kyle Busch said, how many cars behind us on the lead lap? The answer was 7. So he said, we're coming. 4 tires. I need help getting tighter. He asked the lap times compared to Jimmy Johnson and Tony Stewart. When he got that report back, he said, we're going to need help at the end of this run.
Kyle Busch heads back out on the track.
Yeah, my question, I got a question for Larry. Larry, you there?
I am.
All right, let me ask you a question, bud. Some of those guys didn't pit, all right? Did they not pit because we've had so many green flag laps and now they're playing the fuel mileage card for the last 60, 70, 80 laps of the race?
All right, here's what I'm going to tell you, Kyle, is the guys that stayed out, like Jimmy Johnson, like Biffle Montoya, there's no question they can make this race on one more stop. But I know exactly why the 9 car, Casey Kane and Kenny Francis, pitted. Think about our 2 green flag pit cycles. They were the first car to hit pit road. They pitted 37 laps, and in 40 laps, they needed to be able to run 43 laps per run from where they pitted on 114. That caution, I think, was a blessing for the 9 car.
Because all that did, Larry, it caught him up with everybody else.
Exactly. I think everyone can make it on one more stop now. I'm going to put my calculator away.
I wouldn't put that thing away yet. We got 78 to go. Under caution at Michigan for debris in turn 3. Rudeman, the lucky dog.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing from Michigan International Speedway is brought to you by the U.S. Army. Watch drivers battle for position on the U.S. Army Battle Cam, only on TNT's Race Buddy on NASCAR.com. By Sprint, NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. By Subway, home of the famous $5 footlong. Subway, eat fresh. And by Vault, for those who get it done and then some.
Getting ready to go green here at the Michigan International Speedway. Our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you have a winning fuel strategy. Goodyear. Let's see. Rudeman, as we mentioned, was the lucky dog. The 44 of Allmendinger has come back out on the track. The top 9 drivers did not pit. Jimmy Johnson, driver leader's choice, starts on the outside row. No wave around. There'll be 75 to go when they take the green, which is right about now. Can also tell you Ryan Newman came back down pit road for an extended pit stop.
Yeah, they changed a little bit more than a spring rubber on that one.
They changed the right rear spring in that Army car, and they did it within about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. That's Army strong. It's 234 years, but this is amazing. Watch this. Let's see if we got video.
And that's how bad your car is when you come in and change a right rear spring. You're looking for big time help when you do something like that. Good Packer racing here.
Close quarters. Oh. At 99, come down across the hood of Elliott Sadler. Elliott Sadler's having a good run today. He's been in the top 10, 12, 15, just kind of biding his time there. We mentioned him through when we went through the field, but I'm telling you, he's having a really good run.
Casey Kane in the 9, Earnhardt the 88, Elliott Sadler in the 19.
Hey, what, Casey's rocketing through there right now.
Pedaling now, huh?
Yes, sir.
It always amazes me. I'm sorry. It always amazes me that these guys get to the corner and they're all looking for fresh air. That's part of why they're running the way they are. But they can run anywhere around the corner and they all fall back in line down the straightaway. Especially on new tires. New tires give you so much grip.
Yeah. But this, you're getting the time of the race. You can't lose track position on the leaders right now. If you've got a good car, you can't mess around in this traffic. You've got to try to keep that leader in sight if you're going to have a shot.
And Harvick's a good example. We saw Harvick there on the inside. And Harvick's been running 18th, 19th, somewhere in that range. But he knows he's got to get some track position right here. So if his car's not as good as it was and he starts losing again, he doesn't drop from 19th to 25th. He just drops from 9th or 10th back to 15th or 16th.
Denny Hamlin in the 11, Kurt Busch in the 2, and here comes Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon. Hamlin is 5th, so this is 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Stewart falls in behind Busch.
And you see the 8, you see the 14 and the 2. Drafting does come into effect here.
Absolutely.
You see how those guys got to run. The 14 just stayed in line behind the 2. And look where Jeff is. Jeff 5 car lengths behind him now. He was up to the door on the 14 almost halfway through the corner.
On board with Carl Edwards in the Aflac Ford. Ford against Chevy right there.
And see, when you pull up beside a car, now see, at least you got somebody up in front that's in your lane. But normally when they're all lined up and you're down on the inside like Carl is, it's like hitting a brick wall of air. Even if you have a little bit of a run, your car just stops. The only way you can get a little bit of help is if there's somebody running side by side in front of you helping breaking that air.
And you see on the front stretch here, Carl had to jump back up in line because he just couldn't get enough run up off that corner, and it frees you up a lot more down the front stretch because it's D-shaped. It's a longer straightaway.
Right, and look at the 9. The 9 would actually, he had a good run going into 1. Here we go.
Mark Martin in the 5. Juan Montoya in the 42.
Boy, Mark's just sneaking up there again,
Yeah,
isn't
Mark
he?
has just been 15th. Well, what happened to Mark? Well, he's 13th. Well, what happened to Mark? Well, now he's 3rd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look at him power up. He goes straight to the gas hard right there, man.
That's when your car's working, when you can get after the gas like that in the middle. Ooh, that's strong.
Mark's got 3 wins this season, 4 at this track. Looking
Nice
for
job, bud. Nice job. Go get him. Hit the mark.
looking for his 5th win at Michigan. And there's a little bit of a story here on Matt Kenseth, who runs in the 11th position. Lindsay, that's yours.
Yeah, Bill, you're right. And he just got on the radio a little bit ago and said, I'm feeling a vibration. But basically, they've been battling these loose conditions all day. And it was interesting because he pitted on lap 114, took 4 tires and fuel under green. And then the caution was called, and they brought him back in. Lap 122, 4 tires again, fuel, and that air pressure adjustment. So right now, they're just trying to find a better line for him to run, also making sure that they take care of that loose condition as this track heats up.
So that's the story on Kenseth. Bounce around a little bit. Look for the 88 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Currently scored in the 13th position. And Ralph, you're on that.
You know, Lance McGrew told me today it's a slow process to get this team to a position where they're going to be capable of winning and challenging for the championship. But every time they make a step, Bill, they get a little bit better, they feel a little bit better, and that good feeling is what they're hearing from Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the radio today.
Yeah, you
You know, his car's been fairly consistent.
I ain't really complained a whole lot about this thing, and you've been working on it. How it's supposed to be. I hear you. I'm just scared you're going to mess it up, but you've done good. I love the amount of confidence you have in it over here. I wouldn't say that you have anything to do with it. I mean, you know, it's the history I have. History's just that, bud, history. It's been fun today racing with people, new people. Just starting to get to race with the people we need to be racing with.
That's what they're doing right now, Bill, working their way up through the field. They'd be up into the top 10 right now, running in 14, still dialing on that car, but they're confident and getting back up in there. In fact, Lance McGrew told me if we finish anywhere between 8th and 12th today, that's a good day. We're gaining on this thing.
And we missed the first part of that, but you could tell by the end of it, just his attitude seems better.
Yeah, but you know, we talked about it when they made the changes earlier. Sometimes just changing your uniform, your attitude gets better. You know what I mean? But these were major changes here, and I'm sorry to step on him. I couldn't hear him up here in the booth. I'm too much time in a race car, I guess. I can't hear anything. But he has been a lot more consistent today than he was at Pocono last week. And as we stated earlier in the broadcast, this is Lance's first full week of working here, without any rain delays, without anything going, getting all the practices, getting everything. So this is their first full week together.
And this is the critical part I've seen with Junior. This is the part of the race where Junior usually slides backwards.
Yeah.
A lot of times he'll run good up the first half of the race, and then all of a sudden he just fades. So from here on out, from this point of the race to the end of the race, this is where the biggest part of his deal that he's had to work on, I think. And if they can run where they're running or even get better, then they've made a huge gain.
22 cars are scored on the lead lap.
The car has been too loose in and too loose off a great amount. Whatever we change, you need to undo it. Get smart on it. Get to looking at it, figure out, all right, here's when it started. He started talking about it. Undo whatever that is.
Okay, now I'm going to expand on what Wally said. This is the point where they lose their grip, where they lose where they're at. Now he's saying you need to undo something. This is going to be the call that Lance makes. Do they undo it, or do they just say, gut it out, you're running 12th or 13th? If they undo it and he drops the 17th or 20th, like he has in the past, that's a problem. And that's a call that's coming from the driver's seat, not from the pit box.
Do they tell him they undid it and not undo it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's been done all the time.
All the time. All the time.
Well, they may only have one more pit stop to do it. We'll see how it all plays out. Jimmy Johnson has led 126 of 136 laps, including this one at Michigan. TNT Sports at Michigan International Speedway, Brooklyn, Michigan, on a Sunsplash Sunday afternoon. And Jimmy Johnson just out for a Sunday drive. He has led 131 laps. He leads Greg Biffle by 1.6 seconds. Coke Zero, the only soft drink with real Coke taste and 0 calories, is giving fans a real taste of NASCAR. 163 miles per hour in a real race car with a real NASCAR driver. Visit mycokerewards.com/400 to enter the Coke Zero Real Taste of NASCAR sweepstakes for a chance to win the ride of your life with a member of the Coca-Cola racing family. Then be sure to watch the Coke Zero 400 live on TNT July 4th to see if you've won. That'd be an unscheduled stop for Matt Kenseth. Okay, we'll get to Kenseth to find out what happened there. Let's go through the field, starting with the race leader. Here's Lindsay.
Bill, Jimmy Johnson being pretty quiet on the radio. He did say, though, that the car's a little bit funky in the center of turn 3. He said a little bit free off turn 2, but nothing too significant overall. Very pleased with his machine, Matt.
Greg Biffle's been on a roll in the championship standings over the past 2 races. He's gained 3 spots. Started Michigan in the 7th position. His biggest issue much of the race is trying to find grip, and that's his latest complaint to Greg Irwin. The car just needs more grip on exit. Mark Martin, one of 4 drivers to go to victory lane after leaving Roush Racing. He has climbed up to 3rd. Mark's only real issue of late, the last run his car was neutral, but he's had some kind of electrical issue over about the last 40 laps. He's been going back and forth between battery A and battery B. Marty?
This morning, Denny Hamlin, or Matt, I should say, Denny Hamlin told me this morning that they took a different approach to practice this weekend. He said somehow we've lost being good at the end of a long run. He said that used to be our strength. All of a sudden now it's a weakness for it, and that has worked this weekend for this 11 car. They've gotten much better. The car right now for Denny, very good, one of the fastest on the track, and he said, I had to work really hard to get around that 42 car, Lindsay.
I believe he did, Marty, and I'll tell you what, Juan Pablo Montoya right now isn't too happy with this car. He feels like the crew adjusted it a little bit too much on that last pit stop. That was lap 115. He said right now the car feels as though it is plowing. Montoya overall, though, just pleased right now to be in the top 5, Marty.
Lindsay, it's amazing how razor sharp the edge of this car is. Last run for Jeff Gordon, so loose he could barely drive it. 2 rounds down on the track bar. Now he says it's great, up in the 6th position. Very happy with the car. Remember, Gordon started at the back today, the 2nd time in the last 3 races. He started at the back, trying to turn this one into a win. Matt?
And Tony Stewart runs in the 7th position, the championship point leader, trying to increase his lead over Jeff Gordon. Stewart says his biggest issue at this juncture, basically, he wanted Darian Grubb to know it takes 2 to 4 laps before his car really comes in. That way, he can plan ahead to the next stop. Just how big of a swing they want to make adjustment-wise for the run to the finish. Marty?
Matt, remember how good Carl Edwards was on the last run? Well, he's about that much worse on this run. Not very happy with the car. He said it's a little bit tighter than it was last time, especially rolling the center of the corner. He said we made it worse, whatever change we made. Inside the car, Carl made a change himself, adding 2 rounds of rear brake, trying to loosen that thing up just a little bit. Ralph?
Kurt Busch has been inside the top 10 all day today. He's been as high as 2nd. He's currently running back in 9th. The car is still loose in, tight in the center, and loose off. His comment over the radio, it's like going around in a 4-wheel drift. It's made things very difficult for Kurt Busch in car number 2.
Rounding out the top 10, Ralph, is Casey Kane in the 9. Remember, he pitted under that last caution, took on tires. His issue that they've been fighting, loose. But Kane said that the car, Larry Mack, at this point, he says the car is just terrible. They have lost the handle on this 9.
Yeah, Matt, they only may get one more opportunity. But we talked about 50-year-old Mark Martin having a big old time today. I think I know another one of our senior players having a lot of fun out there today. 53-year-old Bill Elliott, that 21 car, qualified in the 15th position. That's exactly where he's running. And you know what? When you look at this 21 car and Bill Elliott, a total of 18 wins combined here at Michigan. You know what, Kyle? They may not have a winning car, but they may have a top 15 car. And you know what? I know NASCAR only logs wins, top 5s, and top 10s, but a top 15 is hard to come by today.
The top 15 is huge to come by. And I'm going to say something. These guys are running a limited schedule like the Wood brothers of old. When they used to run with Pearson and with Cale back in the 60s and 70s, and they ran the limited schedule. And I tell you what, I think it's made them a better team. And I think Bill's made these guys a better team. And it's good to see that Motorcraft car with Bill Elliott driving it. Here he's going to the outside of Junior, so that's pretty cool right there.
21 cars are scored on the lead lap. The first car off the lead lap is the 17 of Matt Kenseth. An update on that, back to Lindsay.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, a frustrating afternoon for Matt Kenseth. He's felt loose all day long, but I told you about the vibration that he was feeling. The team brought him in because he had a loose left rear wheel. So they gave him 4 new tires. They tightened him up, sent him back out. But man, you talk about a guy that's frustrated, especially also about last week at Pocono. They did not finish where they wanted to either.
So he fell from 11th to 22nd now off the lead lap, and that puts Matt Kenseth just 41 points ahead of the 13th place position in the Sprint Cup point standings held by David Rudem. Jimmy Johnson is the race leader, 51 to go, closing in on pit stops. A zippy race here in Michigan. We're under caution at the Michigan International Speedway, a 1-car incident involving David Stremme. Third caution of the race. There you can see the entrance to pit road. And watch the middle of your screen, the 12 car.
That thing just busted loose, and he was just hanging on for the ride at this point.
Told the team the car had been loose up until then.
That thing slid a quarter mile before he hit anything. I mean, think about how far that is. Here he is coming off turn 4, down across the apron, on the pit road.
Blew the right front.
Here's the big thing. The lucky dog, the 17 of Matt Kenseth. He will get to come around and be the 22nd car on the lead lap because of the location of that car and the safety vehicles. Pit road is closed. So we'll step out for break, come back for pit stops, and this is really going to tighten the old fuel window here at Michigan. We are back at Michigan. Pit road opened 1 lap earlier than we anticipated. All the lead lap cars have stopped, but we're going to take you right back through what happened. Jimmy Johnson leads them down pit road. He's in that very first stall. Here you see Greg Biffle in the 16 and the 2 of Kurt Busch. And Lindsay?
Well, Jimmy Johnson came in. I told you before, he said he had been a little bit free off turn 2. They gave him 4 tires, gave him a chassis adjustment and fuel, Matt Yoakum.
Lindsay, a track bar adjustment for Biffle, still a tick on the free side. His situation, much like Mark Martin, who was in 3rd, both are about 3 laps short on fuel. Ralph?
Still working with air pressure adjustments for Kurt Busch. They put 4 tires and fuel in the car. His biggest thing now, too, is that he feels the front is coming up too easily on the gas. They say, Marty, that's more of a geometry issue at the front of the car. Won't be able to work on that till they get back to the shop, and they will not be able to go the distance on this much fuel, Marty.
Denny Hamlin asked Mike Ford to free him up just a little bit. A 1/4 round of wedge in the right rear, that's all. Such a small change for these guys, and they gained him 2 spots here on pit road up to the 2nd position. They are about 5 to 6 laps short, and before he even left pit road, Mike Ford was saying, save as much fuel as you can, Bill.
Thanks, Marty. And there is the race off pit road. We wanted you to watch the 48 and the 5 come down side by side, but Biffle beat them all out. And as you saw, followed by Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, Biffle's pit stop was about 1.5 seconds faster than Jimmy Johnson's, and that's all it took for him to get that spot.
Scott Speed and A.J. Allmendinger have returned to the track. Larry?
All right, Bill, we know things change. These guys make a little more power, but it's the same gear ratio as a year ago. Last year, Dale Earnhardt Jr. went 55 laps. Now, that included 10 laps of caution. So if you do the numbers, that's equal to about 50 green flag laps. I'll guarantee you there are guys out there, especially I think the Chevrolet camp, that can make it from here.
Larry?
I didn't put my calculator up. I was just kidding.
Okay. You know what note I had in my hand?
The same one.
You betcha.
Look at this, Larry.
Tap out our stats, people, huh?
Look at this, Larry.
Hey,
Larry.
what did we talk about in the countdown
there
of the
it
rim?
is.
You
there
see
it
him
is,
up
baby.
There
it
the
is.
switch off.
And you heard him pop the clutch and fire it. Listen to him. Fire it back up. Now it's just quiet. That's the way it sounds right before you hit something also, just so y'all know that.
Yeah, it's an ugly sound.
Yeah. He pops his ignition back up. He's riding the clutch, pops the clutch, fires it up. He's just tooling around here. He's down here in turn 3, down here in turn 4 on the racetrack right now, getting ahead of steam, cuts it off. Now he's coasting. Every little bit he's doing here will pay off. They hope that they don't go any caution. So he's going to do this he's going to do this until it comes time to go green. Okay, it's not Earth Day, so he just threw a bottle out. That's okay. All right, sorry about that. But this is what Larry talked about in pre-race. This is what we've talked about. You know, and everybody thought you can't do this under green. We can talk about this. You can't do this under green, but where he's at right now, he's out front. He's the perfect guy.
All right, buddy, we're getting closer and closer by the foot here. Saving all you can. Saving all you can.
Hey, Larry, you know, does this sometimes create other problems? I mean, you're doing this, say you do this 10 or 12 times a lap, it's not exactly good on the trannies.
Hey, there's a lot of things it's not good on, but you know what, Wally? Running out of gas is not good either. I like the numbers on his A-post bar. We always talk about Dale Earnhardt Jr. not being able to find his pits. If you look at those numbers there on Greg Biffle's little pad in there, that tells him that the 2 cars before his pit is Mark Martin and the 37 car. The 2 cars after his pits, it was Joe Nemechek and Scott Speed. I like that right there.
Getting ready to go back to green here. Jimmy Johnson has led 142 laps. He's currently scored in the 3rd position. The most laps led by a driver who failed to win at Michigan, 141 laps. That was by Mark Martin in June of 1993. Ricky Rudd won that race driving for Rick Hendrick in car number 5. Fans, Off Track with Tony Stewart, presented by Armor All, is an exclusive video series that puts you behind the scenes with racing superstar Tony Stewart. To watch now, go to NASCAR.com/ArmorAll. Biffle and Hamlin on the front row. And Biffle taking the outside line. Then it's Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon,
Montoya, Stewart, Kane, Kurt Busch, and McMurray. There were 6 wave-around cars. They restart at the rear of the field. They must take the green on the track. Here's the double file restart shootout style. 45 to go.
Hamlin got a terrible start right there. You saw him just spin the tires and then try to block as much as he could to the inside.
Biffle, then Mark Martin. Then Jimmy Johnson. Man, I love that restart.
Boy, Kyle Busch is working that high line, and he is passing cars right now.
I think the double file restart is exciting because we've talked about it before. You got to get as much as you can on new tires as soon as the green flag drops. And the thing is, these are the guys you're racing with, so you're getting everything you can. And oh man, Kyle was sideways coming out of 2 right there. That caught my breath.
Well, it's just that, you don't have to waste your time for 3 or 4 laps trying to clear those cars down on the bottom that are lapping more down. And, like you said, you're racing guys now. As soon as they drop the green flag, you're racing the guys that you've been racing all day for position.
I heard a driver say the other day, and it was a good comment. He said, I used to like the lap cars on the inside because once I cleared them, I knew I had a little bit of breathing room for a few laps. He said, but I understand from the fans' perspective that they think the double file restart and us hammering it down in the corner after this is important. And he understood it, but he gave his reason for liking
He
the
must
other
have been
way.
one of those guys who was normally in the top 3.
Obviously, yeah, in the top 2 at some places.
Okay. Just a reminder, you must stay in line until you cross the start-finish line on these double file restarts. NASCAR has requested that the 48 car remember to stay in line until you cross the start-finish line.
Well, that's exciting. I don't think I was ever requested or reminded to do anything. I was just told to do stuff.
Well, that's you.
Yeah, obviously.
Matt on Casey Kane.
Bill Casey Kane restarted in 8th position. He's made his way up to 7th. He's got that new Dodge engine, a little thirstier as far as fuel mileage goes. They've got a game plan to try to get them to the finish.
Want to just get going here and it'll spread out. Maybe we can save, or I'm not real sure what to do.
Yeah, hopefully we can get going. It'll spread out, and then what we'll do is like about 3/4 down the straightaway, you'll just kick it in neutral and coast into the corner, and then kick it back in gear when you get ready to go off the corner. That'll save a good bit of fuel.
It's a little bit about saving fuel. 1 year ago in this event, he finished 2nd.
But Larry McReynolds, you know that if there's a car out there that's going to have a tough time saving fuel, it is that 9 car. Why?
Well, Bill, we were in the garage area this morning, and you and I talked just a little bit. The new Dodge engine, the R6 engine, like the Penske cars that have been running all year long, they don't get quite as good a fuel mileage as the old Dodge engine package. And for only the 2nd time in 2009, Kenny Francis, Casey Kane, that 9 car, they have the new R6 Dodge engine in. So they've not got to the fuel mileage like the old Dodge engine just yet.
Thank you, sir. Looking for the 11 car of Denny Hamlin right here. Here's our Toyota driver update. And he runs in the 4th spot. It's the highest running Toyota. So our Toyota driver update. Right behind him, a couple of Chevrolets, Jeff Gordon and Juan Montoya.
He wanted Montoya, didn't he? He was really wanted to.
It was like, and then Juan kind of hangs a left at him like, don't think that. That's my lane.
I'm not giving this to you.
Ralph, you watching the 24?
That'd be me, Weber. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Can I chat now? Well, Jeff's currently in 6th. He said the car is just so loose, and it's really been loose all day long. Took a big swing at it a couple stops ago. Another big swing this last time with a major wedge and air pressure adjustment. He said, you know what? We're fast, but it's hard to hang on to, especially early in this run. Just does not want to turn for me in the corner.
Thank you, Marty.
You know, we saw Jeff do something on that last lap that was a little, he comes through 3 and 4 and he gets a good run on Montoya, and he ran the bottom through 3 and 4 the lap before, and then he tried to go the high side of Montoya. Now he's gone in the middle and slid back up in front of Montoya to take a little air off his nose and take that groove away.
I don't think that 42 is given up yet.
And here comes the 9 by both of them while they're playing with each other.
But he's saving fuel.
Yeah, somebody is.
I think not. Okay. Everybody basically at the edge of their fuel window. Give credit to the 16 crew. They got Greg Biffle off pit road first. He is the race leader. Biffle has only led 10 laps, but he's leading with 36 to go. .33 laps to go here at Michigan. Greg Biffle is the leader by just a 1.5 seconds over Mark Martin. Find the largest assortment of NASCAR merchandise with over 100 drivers and 15,000 items available. Shop at NASCAR.com/superstore. And if you've been following Race Buddy, you know you can ask the booth a question. The truck says they have one for us. There it is. With teams worried about tire wear, why do the drivers spin them out
of the pit box?
Right.
I love
Why
that.
do you spin
I love
your
that
tire?
question. Well, because you know you sit there, be careful with your tires, and you see guys lighting them up coming out of the pit. I don't think you take any rubber off a tire when it's cold and you leave pit lane. If they were hot and you spun the tires, then you're going to be taking off a lot of rubber. But when they're cold, they're hard, and you can light them up, and you know nothing really comes off them.
That's a good answer. I was just going to say because they can, and it's ungodly cool to spin
Well,
the
yeah,
tires when you leave.
it's cool, but you're not supposed to say, I just took a quarter of my tire off on that cool burnout.
Yeah, no, and you're right. You know, when they're hot, it's totally different when these things are up to 230 or 40 degrees and at operating temperature compared to how hard they are and what they are when you leave pit road. Sorry, I was being a smart aleck. Oh, wait a minute, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
That was pretty interesting. You saw the 2 car really take off high, and actually Montoya in the 42 car, he was down underneath the white line looking for grip down there on the apron.
Yeah, and one thing you can do when you drop down at this point in time in the race, this racetrack has had rubber put down on it for 170 laps. Below that white line, there is no rubber. That's fresh racetrack. Now, the problem is your car has to be comfortable enough and tight enough so that you don't knock all the wedge out of the car, so it doesn't unload the car and it gets real loose. But if you can drop it down there, Mark Martin used to be notorious for running below that line.
And it's really like a cheese grater. You get to a point where, you know,
he's all the way down there. That's 4 tires. That's 4 tires on the flat.
But you look at a cheese grater and you hit it with cheese, it fills up all those cracks in that grip, and then it becomes slippery. And now that's what's happened to this racetrack. This racetrack is all filled up with that rubber, and it's slick. Now they're going down on that apron where it's like a fresh cheese grater, and they've got that grip. You see that a lot of racetracks.
There's Jimmy Johnson. He runs in the 3rd position. An update from Lindsay.
Bill, I just asked Chad Knaus if he could make it the rest of the way on fuel. He held up his fingers and said, I don't know, we'll see. All I can say is this morning he told me that his fuel window was about 43-ish. If that's the case, it puts them right there. Here's some in-car communication earlier from Jimmy.
Great work, man. Do everything you can. I know you are, but do everything you can to get around that 5. The 16 cannot make it on fuel. They're going to have to slow down their pace here the next few laps. It's going to be between you and the 5.
Jimmy Johnson right now saying that this car feels good. All is quiet because their focus now is getting around that 5 car, Bill.
Thanks, and we apologize. We couldn't. Maybe you heard it at home. We couldn't hear it up here. Biffle by a 1.5 seconds.
You know, I got to say, now we're at that stage. This is the Larry McReynolds stage of the race, okay? Where all of our pit reporters for TNT are down there asking questions and not getting told the truth, okay? Last week, how far can you go? Oh, I can only go 38 laps. And they go 75 laps, it seems like. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's the same thing. This is, you know, you guys sitting at home, know just as much about this as what we know, and what we're being told is not always the truth. We're just relaying it.
But you do know they're saving fuel. If they're shutting the engine off under the yellow, you know that it's going to be close.
Oh, it's going to be close.
And you wonder if Biffle is faster than that or is in a conservation mode right now.
I could probably already tell you that Biffle has never been in conservation mode in his life. Okay, he's
Very
just
good.
slamming, man.
That's how he got the job, driving for Jack Roush. It's a good story. Might get to tell it to you later. Biffle leads in Michigan, just 26 to go.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing is brought to you by Sprint. NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. By Coors Light. Get Coors Light pole position alerts on your cell phone. Just text RACE to 42100 to sign up. And by McDonald's.
Greg Biffle is the race leader. There's a new second-place car, Jimmy Johnson. He's 1.7 seconds back of Biffle. There's Mark Martin in third, and we pull out to show you Biffle. And we can tell you, it appears that these guys might be slowing down just a little bit. They could be in some type of fuel-saving mode. Let's check out a fresh take brought to you by Subway Restaurant. Subway, eat fresh, down to Larry.
Bill, these were the averages we looked at the top of the show. You see, on the average, the last 8 races, first caution lap 27. Crossed that one out. Our first caution was not until lap 72. Longest green run, we've had 2 of those long green runs, and one of them was exactly 72 laps. This is the one we're going to keep an eye on, though. The last caution, normally lap 181. In fact, when you look at the 5 out of the last 7 races, we've had a caution in the last 10 laps, and we still have 22 cars on the lead lap right now.
Thank you, Larry. 21 laps to go.
48's loose.
48's loose?
Yeah.
Loose is fast, right?
I don't know, but it depends how sideways you're going to go off the corner.
It's more aerodynamic when you're running in a straight line. So when you run sideways, you're wasting fuel.
Okay, let's do a top 5 through the field. Greg Biffle got the lead coming off of pit road.
Bill, his crew chief Greg Irwin was working the calculator much like Larry Mack used to in the old days, and under that caution, they felt like they were 3 laps short. They told Biffle to run hard as he could until lap 175, then start going into fuel conservation mode, Lindsay.
Matt, a lot of communication going on down here in the pit of Jimmy Johnson. Chad Knaus just told Jimmy, push it hard for 7 more laps. That's their game plan right now. They felt as though they were very, very close. So right now, he's going to see what he's got, Matt.
And Alan Gibson thinks they may be a little short, but they're still working the numbers. They told Mark to start to save fuel. They think they may be close enough to roll the dice and maybe go for it. Marty.
Matt, when Denny Hamlin left pit road, he was about 5 laps short on fuel. And usually when you go out in these strategies, we've heard you guys talk about it, you run hard, then you slow down at the end of the run. Mike Ford and Denny Hamlin are doing the opposite. They slow down at the beginning of the run. They're going to go hard at the end of the run. That could be very interesting. Denny saying he's doing all he can to stay competitive. Jeff Gordon, however, from Steve Letarte says, we're good to go to the end. Run as hard as you want this entire run. This is going to be good, Bill.
Going to be fun to watch.
The thing is, you know, you got to think with 18 to go, if you're sitting there, if you're Martin or Jimmy Johnson or any of those guys, you have to catch the 16 first and hoping that he'll run out of gas. I mean, if you're going to win, you got to be there. You've got to be out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, you got to be there. It's just like last week. If we go back to the Pocono race last week, Jimmy Johnson said, I went off into turn 1 and I thought Carl ran out of gas. So I powered by him. You know what I mean? Next thing he knows, Carl powers back by him, and then Jimmy has to run hard, and Jimmy runs out of gas, and Carl doesn't. So you got to be close enough to take advantage and push that guy and make that guy in front of you run out of gas.
Yeah, if you're going to be 3 or 4 seconds back behind Biffle and hope he runs out of gas, yeah, that ain't going to. You know, that ain't going to work. You've got to be fast enough to be right there.
Yeah, that's the proverbial hope and a promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greg Biffle's fastest lap was on lap 79. He ran a 39.24 seconds. That's about 2.5 seconds faster than he's running right now. Inside of 17 to go here at Michigan. It's Biffle, Johnson, Martin, Hamlin, Jeff Gordon, Carl Edwards runs in the 6th spot. Who has enough fuel? Greg Biffle is the race leader, but Jimmy Johnson is coming. Fans, let's check in on the rankings for today's fastest pit crews at Michigan. There you see them. Greg Biffle got the lead with the help of his pit crew. He won the race off of pit road. Denny Hamlin and Jeff Gordon.
Okay, now here's the hard part. Yep, got to save fuel.
Not
but
anymore.
I got to stay out front too. Well, what do you know, he's saving. 16 isn't running 100% right now. I guarantee you that.
And the 48's running pretty dang 100% because he's sideways and backwards off every corner. He's driving right now, and he's picked up about a half second, maybe a little bit more than that over the last 3 or 4 laps. So I mean, you know, and these guys are equal right now. Equal tires, equal fuel, equal everything.
Jimmy Johnson has led 142 laps in this race. Biffle has led 35. Johnson dominated the first 3 quarters of this race.
You see Johnson come up out of the corner there. That thing slaps back and
He's
forth.
been like that for the last 10 laps. He's been hitting the wall almost.
He's trying to get there to catch up. And whether he's trying to get there to get around him at this point in time with this many laps, or to get there and just smell the draft and save some fuel for him. You know, as fast as he's caught him over the last 3 or 4 laps, it's almost like if I can ride behind him for 4 or 5 laps.
10 to go.
10 to go.
Still 6 back.
What I would be afraid of on that car, I would want to get in front of him because I don't want to race it. If he's in fuel conservation, I want to get by him and I want to have a little bit of a cushion, because if Biffle drops the hammer again because he's got enough fuel, then you got to race him.
Yeah, then you got to race him. That's true. Once you get him down, you want to get him down.
Keep him down.
You want to keep him down.
Let's go.
Matt, he's getting a lot of encouragement now.
Bill, 10 laps to go. Fuel conservation on everyone's mind. Moments ago, this was the conversation between Irwin and Biffle.
Confirm, Biffle. No savings. No savings. 2 laps short. 2 laps short. No savings. Tell me to run it. 25%. 25%. Needed 2 laps of gas from the beginning of the run. 2 laps.
Tell him exactly how much that he needs to try to save. And Bill, it takes me back to a Jimmy Buffett song when you talk about math.
Yeah. Math Sphinx is the one version of it.
That 48 may not have a right rear left by the time he gets to the 16.
Here's one, 10 to go. Biffle has never been passed for the win when he is leading with 10 laps to go. He leads now. Jimmy Johnson right there. The question is, do they have enough fuel to reach the finish? Has Biffle been able to save enough?
And I think even listening to that conversation, you got to say he feels like he does, because what they said was we needed to save 2 laps, 25%, and then he said from the very beginning of the run.
Right.
So maybe they felt like at this point in time, with 10 or 15 laps to go, when we heard that conversation, that they had saved enough fuel to go all out right now.
On board with Biffle, looking back at Jimmy Johnson. 8 to go. Mark Martin runs in the 3rd spot, then Denny Hamlin and Jeff Gordon. Edwards, Kurt Busch, Montoya, Stewart, Vickers, the top 10. 22 cars run on the lead lap. Johnson right there.
I think Jimmy wants by. It's just, I'm not sure. I just think his car might be a little bit too loose to get past him. What are they saying, Lindsay?
All I'm hearing down here is Chad saying, go get him, man, go get him. They really believe that they can make it all the way on fuel, and they feel like Jimmy's just a step behind. But once he gets past Biffle, if he can, this race could be his, Bill.
Taking a look down on the bottom, but he's so loose right there. Look at that car get loose.
Oh.
And it makes it even worse when you've got a car on your outside. And that's what I just said a lap ago. I think Jimmy's trying to get by. I just don't think he's got the car. I think the car's too loose for him.
Biffle's waving to him?
That wasn't a wave. That was a what are you doing hand.
Yeah, Biffle's waving to him saying, hey, you want to play that game? I'm going to play the game with you too. I'm going to run down on your door and pull you around. And that's what he did. He run down on his door to make him a little bit freer.
These are the leaders right here. This is on the left-hand box, Jeff Gordon and Denny Hamlin. Gordon is 4th, Hamlin is 5th. Mark Martin runs between those 2 packs in the 3rd spot.
And Biffle's not going to give him that high lane. Greg knows that's not the... He may have him there. Yep, he's going to be clear from there.
Got some traffic in front of them. Johnson slides in and gets the lead.
Wow. That was just a power move right there. To be able to cut in the middle of the corner, down where he had not been running. He had not run there in the last 4 or 5 laps.
Here he comes back.
Boy, you heard him breathe the throttle. Biffle trying to come back on Johnson.
Biffle's never going to go to the house quietly, okay?
and you know, if he's got if he's at the point where he's got to save fuel now, you're not going to be able to keep up with Jimmy Johnson and save fuel.
And you have to remember, No one is for sure able to reach the finish on their fuel load. You just don't know.
Biffle gets a run at him right here, you know what I mean? He gets down, he diamonds the corner kind of like the 48 car did on him. He's able to cut back across, get some fresh pavement, and come back up down the straightaway. But that 48 car is strong down the straightaway. Jimmy's willing to give up the outside line right now, where Biffle was never willing to give it up.
That 48 car looks like he's on a dirt track.
Yeah. But he has for the last 20 laps. As he got around Mark Martin and as he has run Biffle down, he's looked like he was sideways 2/3 of a lap.
Now it's time for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile Monster Moment. And guess what it is? It's this right now. We're looking at it with 4 to go. Stay tuned to all of the in-car audio, live radio broadcast, stats, and more with NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile, only from Sprint, only on the Now Network. Visit sprint.com/speed to find out more. 3 to go when they get to the line.
All right, the 16, he can't push it that hard either, but it's nice and smooth.
It's Chad Knaus, Jimmy Johnson's crew chief. Through turn 2. Mark Martin is about 1.5 seconds behind this. Matt on Mark.
Phil, he's sitting back there knowing that his car is fast. Mark told his crew just moments ago, he said, I feel like we can run up there and pass him. The problem is we need to finish. We need to have a solid run here. He's 13th in the points, 1 point out of 12. Right now, he's in fuel conservation mode, looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, actually, Matt, right now where he runs, he would move up to the 10th spot in points. So you're right, he does need a good finish today.
Less than 2 to go. And again, these cars, their drivers, oh, Biffle, really loose.
He's just driving it, man. He's just driving.
These guys on the edge of their fuel window. We saw what happened at Pocono. Guys running out, coming out of the final turn last week.
But now you got to turn off the fuel mode, anything.
Yeah,
Now everybody's 100% with 1 to go.
White flag is out. Jimmy Johnson's out of fuel. Jimmy Johnson is out of fuel. Biffle leads. White flag in the air. This is the last lap.
Biffle may be the new Silver Fox.
Well, hang on. We got a long way to go. We got Mark Martin sitting right there. Mark just moved to second.
Biffle's, he looks to be slow.
He's slowing. Is he slowing?
He's off the pace.
He's off the pace.
Here comes Mark Martin.
He's barreling.
Oh, my God. Oh, look at Biffle.
He's shaking it. He just went to the switch.
Here comes Mark. Oh, no.
Half a lap from the finish. Mark Martin to the lead.
Incredible.
Does he have enough fuel?
This is drama, dude. This is,
oh, yeah, he can coast from here.
Out of
He's
4.
got it.
Biffle's going to coast.
He's got 4 wins here and another one today. Mark Martin takes the checkered flag of Michigan. That's why you love racing.
Man, that's exciting.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool right there.
Mark Martin had never won a race starting outside the top 25. Never until today. He started 32nd.
That was a great finish to a race that was just a race, okay, at best, but that's an incredible finish. Here's Mark Martin. You got 1 Hendricks car that runs out of gas, 2 Hendricks cars that finish what? First, second.
Yep. And took him to 8th. He was on the outside looking in.
That is
coming
huge,
into
man.
this deal.
That is huge. 9 cars out of gas. We talked about the Dodge engines and stuff.
Casey Kane coasted across the finish line.
21st. Kansas 17, or finished 20th. We didn't have as many this time run out of gas as did last week, but still, the key cars ran out of gas again this week, just like they did last week, coming out of turn 4, Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson unofficially 22nd. Man, a wild finish here at Michigan, and we'll be back to talk to the drivers when we continue live on TNT. TNT is taking you to victory lane at the Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. 3rd win of the year for Mark Martin. He's climbing out of the car, and Matt Yoakum is down there to celebrate.
And Bill, I don't know, we haven't seen Mark Martin this excited in so long. Mark, dramatic race for the fans. What was it like for you inside the cockpit trying to find the balance of saving fuel yet having enough speed?
Well, you know, this team deserves to be in the chase, and we were on the outside looking in with all the trouble we had. I went for the points, man. I thought those guys were running too hard for us to save gas. I couldn't do it both, save gas and run with them. And when Jimmy ran out, we got over here, I don't know if you're a listener or not, I said, heck, we're this close, I'm gonna run hard, you know, and I thought we could make it. And we ran out coming off of 4, but this is great for Kellogg's and CarQuest. Great gas mileage by this Chevrolet GM right down the road, and the Kellogg's folks are also just right down the road. And just want to thank the fans. I told Rick, just please don't fire me. I qualified 32nd Friday night, and I was like laying in the bed just worrying about it, you know. Heck, I love this stuff, man. I want to drive this car forever.
Unofficially, you've got the boss's number 5 machine up to 8th in the championship standings.
Hey, that's awesome, man. I love it. And I want to thank Sprint, too. All the fans. Thank you, guys.
Mark Martin back in Michigan's victory lane.
Second year in a row, a Hendrick car has gone to victory lane in a fuel mileage race here at Michigan. We've got all kinds of stuff coming your way from pit road, from the garage, maybe back from the motor coach lot. We'll find out.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing from Michigan International Speedway is brought to you by Off Track with Tony Stewart, presented by Armor All, an exclusive video series that puts you behind the scenes with racing superstar Tony Stewart. To watch now, go to NASCAR.com/ArmorAll. By Subway, home of the famous $5 footlong. Subway, eat fresh. By Toyota, moving forward. And by LifeLock, we've got you under our wing.
11 years ago today, Mark Martin was in victory lane at Michigan, June 14th, 1998. He's back there today. Plenty of other stories from downstairs. Let's start with Ralph Shaheen.
Well, I'm down here with Greg Biffle. Was it the fact that the battle between you and Jimmy Johnson got too intense that it cost you to use too much fuel?
Oh yeah, definitely. The 48 came up there and was driving like we weren't on a fuel mileage run, and ran us down. And I messed with him there for a little bit. I picked up a half a second. I could run with him. But my hat's off to these guys who built this 3 and Ford Fusion. The engines run great. Cars drive great. I encourage everybody to go drive one sometime. But, just made me use too much throttle and, burned up the gas. We would have made it, no problem. We had a great strategy, and the 5 wouldn't have beat us. And, if the 48 would have backed off and made it too, he wouldn't have beat us. But unfortunately, he came up there and we cat and moused and used up our gas, and that's the way it is, the 5 won.
Lindsay?
Thanks, Ralph. I'm here with his teammate, Carl Edwards, who just told me that this race was a gift for you, right? Tell me a 4th place finish.
Yeah, our team, we struggled with the handling all day. And then there at the end, I couldn't believe it. Jimmy ran out, and I thought, it's a forward in victory lane. Greg's going to win this thing for 3M. And, and then Greg ran out. And I was watching Mark, and I thought, maybe, you never know what's going to happen. There's a lot of drama there. But, we had a little bit of trouble on pit road. Didn't handle that well. Still came home 4th. It's a great points day for our LifeLock team. And, man, I wish there was a Ford over there in victory lane. Fords get the best fuel mileage in the world, and we just we couldn't get it done today.
You got to have Jack smiling a little bit, though, right?
I don't think Jack's smiling right now. That's going to be a tough night. But, we'll go to Sonoma. We've had great runs the last few weeks, and just can't thank LifeLock enough, and Subway and Ford and all the fans. And this is a fun racetrack to race on. I don't know what that looks like on TV, but from the driver's seat, that's heart-pounding, those fuel mileage finishes.
I'd say it was heart-pounding for everybody, right, Bill?
Oh, we enjoyed it, that's for sure. Okay, unofficial race results. Let's see, where do you start? 38th career win for Mark Martin. That makes him 17th all-time sole possession.
Montoya gets a good finish, and I think that also moved him closer to that top 12.
14th, yep.
14th.
43 points out of the 12th spot.
And Clint Boyer ran good last week, didn't have much to show for it. Had a good run. We had him on this morning on the TNT race day.
Earnhardt Jr. And there you can see Jimmy Johnson down here in the 22nd position. He actually stopped on pit road and got fuel?
Yeah, he stopped on pit road, got fuel. went across the start-finish line on pit lane, which made him the last car on the lead lap. Now, if he hadn't done that, he would have still been in the same position. He would have just been the first car one lap down, and that's a scoring technicality, but those guys wanted to get every lap in to say they ran every lap.
He led 146 laps, Johnson did, but came home 22nd. You see the rest of the finish order there? It is the 26th 1-2 finish for Hendrick Motorsports. Jeff Gordon was second, and let's go down and hear from him.
Jeff Gordon just climbing out of his car, getting something cool to drink. I'm sure you were in fuel mode. How tight was it for you?
Well, I think we saved a little too much, actually. You know, we're running a slower pace than those guys up front, being in traffic, as well as, you know, I felt like I saved a pretty good amount under that caution. And the guys on this DuPont National Guard, you're the NCO, and hi to all those NCOs out there. These guys obviously packed it full of fuel because, I mean, I drove all the way around there. I ran pretty hard the whole time, and we pretty much knew that Mark would have pushed when we got to him. So I was happy to get my Denny and come home second. You know, hate to see those guys run out, but you know, that's just the way some of these races turn out, and we played it the best we could. Congratulations to Mark Martin. I tell you, it's hard to beat him and Allen right now. Those guys are tough, they're smart, they're fast, and we're having a lot of fun out there, though.
I'll tell you what, this Hendrick engine department doing a pretty darn good job on fuel economy as well.
Well, Jimmy, I know it's a frustrating feeling. How helpless is that when the car just goes silent?
There's not much you can do. I mean, it's a shame to have such a strong race and come back with whatever finish it was. But
22nd.
22nd. Man, I wish you wouldn't have told me.
Sorry.
No. What do you do? I mean, we raced hard. We led the most laps. You know, in a time when it's tough to pass guys on big tracks, we went up there and passed the 5 and passed the 16. You know, so on the bright side of things, I'm real happy with the performance we had, and we really closed the gap on these guys here at Michigan. But unfortunately, we didn't win. So it's part of it. You know, we'll take our lumps, go to the next one. But this Chevrolet was fast, and they called us a track for those other makes. But I think we showed that bow tie can get it done here today. And I have to thank Cobalt, Lowe's, and all their employee owners, and all the Hendrick Motorsports for their hard work.
I thought it was a cool move to go down pit road, and you finished. You did finish the race, though.
Oh, yes, I did. There were people running out of the way, but I did finish the race.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Jimmy,
Denny Hamlin gets a third-place finish here today. Denny, how good does this feel for you?
It's a relief to finally get a finish where we belong. You know, we had a good car all day. Just proud of this whole FedEx Express team, and you know, we were definitely a car that could contend for a top 2-3 spot all day, and you know, it feels good to finally come out of here with the finish that we deserved.
What do you think about this finish in general and the way things played out there in the end?
Well, it was tough. It's tough as a driver to go out there and not run as hard as what you want to, but you know, when these races just seem to come down to fuel mileage a lot, and you know, we worked on it a little bit with our race team, and I think I worked on it as a driver and got better. But you know, I was rolling the 5 in it there at the end, and I felt like, man, maybe I'm running a little bit too hard, and so I let the 24 go, and you know, it turns out the front two bedded each other and running out of gas.
Denny Hamlin and the FedEx team get a much-needed third-place finish.
Some of the stars of the race from just a few moments ago here at Michigan. It's the second 1-2 finish for Hendrick Motorsports at Michigan. In June of '93, Ricky Rudd finished first in the 5-car. Gordon was second in the 24, just like it was today, 5 and 24. Unofficial championship standings after 15 races. You saw the top 10 there, and look at this, Montoya, and you were talking about Juan Pablo.
Yeah, I mean, and here we're going to Sonoma next week. So Montoya's got a really nice chance of getting into that top 12 if he's got a good run this weekend at Sonoma.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. climbs a couple of spots, but he's 255 points now unofficially out of the top 12 positions. That was fun.
That was fun, but that's the problem with points this time of year. You can climb a couple of positions and still be a long way out.
Next Sunday, NASCAR on TNT heads to Sonoma, begins at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time with NASCAR Live, then the countdown to green. Head to NASCAR.com right now for NASCAR on TNT post-race show interviews, analysis, more live now on NASCAR.com. For all the people around the track and in the truck, thanks for having us in for the race. See you in Sonoma.